This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business, I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the
not
game.
no.
Let's go to the last part.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward and our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man
is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome back to AM Prime. My name is Jada McLeod, and this morning we're just jumping straight into it. I'm joined by Alan Ferguson, President of the Scrap Iron Dealers Association. a man who's been a long-standing advocate for one of Trinidad and Tobago's most debated yet economically significant industries. Mr. Ferguson is here not just to speak on the issues, but to speak more freely on what he believes the country needs to hear about the bigger picture on how scrap iron affects everyone. Good morning and welcome to the program, Mr. Ferguson.
Good morning to you and good morning to you viewers. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you on. So let's just jump straight into it. Let's start with the big picture look. How would you describe the current state of the scrap iron industry in TNT?
Well, this industry on life support right now.
Okay.
And it's a serious thing. And the whole thing about this industry is that the only industry that reached the people, the poor people in Trinidad and Tobago. And I will tell you why. Now, it have other industry in Trinidad and Tobago, but this industry is a special, a unique industry that someone couldn't have nothing today to eat. His mother couldn't have nothing today to eat. And they could just take a wheelbarrow, go around the yard, and pick up some scrap and bring it to our yard, and they will get money for it, and they will be able to buy something to feed their children with. It's so nice. Now, we look at the dumps and them in Beetham Dump, Arima Dump, Claxon Bay Dump, Tobago Dump, Point Fortin Dump, and we will watch these places, and we will, some people will scorn these people and them. But you know what? The big work that they're doing. Now, some of these dumps sit down in water courses. But our workers in this industry, we know what they do? They take the battery, they take the material that people bring, the stove, the bed, the fridge, and sort it out. Because if they're not in these dumps, they will take it and bury it in the earth. Because that's what they do with the material, and that's why most of the dumps full up. They can't take no more material. But we know our workers sort it out, and we export it. So this industry is very important industry, and it not only reach the people in the community, you know. It's people who have trucks, the brokers, the people who have shops and all these things. Depend on these people to go and work and come back and spend the money, because it's like it's not a monthly thing these people depend on. It's something that every day the people who pour and the money reach them every day, because this money, this industry does not only support people who have money alone, you know. It's trickled down to the poor person. And that is why it's an important industry, and we would like the government to work with us, sit down with us, and don't treat us like the last government treat us, because they didn't listen to us, you know. And the reason why we want to meet the government, because we had to sit down with them in 2013 from 15, and we had to sit down to regularize this industry. And we had to do all the necessary things important to sit down to make this industry a success. And when I take over in 2011-12, you find this industry people wasn't know nothing about the industry. But we recognized that, and we went and joined recycling companies all over the world. And when every year we attend a recycling conference all over the world, so we understand what we need to do to improve this industry in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why we take it up necessary to open up scrapyards in different communities.
Do you have accounts on how many people you directly employ or impact on a daily basis?
Well, before they shut down the industry, we had a count, and you wouldn't believe it, more than 25,000 people was employed in this industry. Meaning that not the people alone pick up scrap, because there's a lot of other things, the transport people, the people who work in the office and doing a lot of things, the exporters. And if you look at it, every community, you see a truck, a van passing on, buying scrap iron, buying battery. That was the main talk in Trinidad. And we could understand why this industry, because it's the only last thing that poor people have, that they could able to do something to help the family. And that is why I am standing up and I am fighting to make sure it stay in our hands. Some people wouldn't like me because of what I stand for in this industry. I stand for it to stay in a way that the poor people will still gain, the underprivileged people will gain continuous with this industry. And I am saying is that all we want to do is to make sure we meet this government and guide them in the way that this industry could be successful and able to bring in the foreign exchange. Because you watch this industry bring foreign exchange to Trinidad and Tobago. And if you're listening for the first time and you're hearing me for the first time, the port of Port of Spain and Point Lisas, we send out the most containers every single month, you know. Why? Because we do aluminum, we do brass, we do batteries, we do HMS 1 and 2. And if we get the own way and we get the right way to do this thing, it's people from the Caribbean islands, Grenada and all the different islands just come to Trinidad to sell the material. We like the Mecca of the Caribbean for this industry. And why you have it in a way that is one today we working this week and we have to wait for next month or 6 weeks to be able to work again. We have to keep our workers for 6-7 weeks to make sure that we have them because they could go somewhere else and look for work. And because of that, we are asking, let us sit down with the ministry, let us sit down with the minister and put some different areas, policy in place that this industry could move on to be a success. That's all we're asking for. We're asking for plenty, you know.
What exactly would the government need to give you? What kind of discussions would you want to have?
No, well, the thing about it is that as how it is now, if you come into my yard with one piece of scrap and you get $50, that transaction, I need to pack all these transactions. If 1,000 people come in my yard for the day, I need to pack up all these transactions that I make with you and take it to the Ministry of Trade. Sometimes it be boxes of documents because sometimes the transactions small. We had to take all of these things to carry them to the ministry. And in a time now, where we're moving away from paper, we had to carry box of paper to the ministry. And then we had to wait more than sometimes we wait 7 weeks to export the material that we buy. And nobody wants to own a grocery or a cloth store. And when the month comes, it's only 1 week you could work for, and then you have to wait 7 weeks again to sell, open up your store. That is what we're going on with us right now.
And that's how it has been for the last couple of years, 5 years, 10 years?
No, for the last, not the last 5 years, since they shut down the industry, this is what we're working with. And we had to tell them this can't work, you know. We had to tell them it couldn't work. So that is why we think is important now for Trinidad and Tobago to understand that there's an industry that a lot of people in the community will benefit. Sometimes when I'm doing my interview, I make sure and I tell them, let me tell you something. The amount of poor people in this community, and I'm going to bring all the community, you know, most of the community is like the community that people talking hot areas that involve in crime. But if you want them to stay away from crime, you know the best thing is to keep them working?
Yes.
And this is why I tell them, when you shut down an industry like this, where majority of the people in the communities, poor people, benefit from this industry, what do you think will happen? The crime will go up.
But people will argue that the crime went up due to the industry. I'm not arguing that, but I've heard that argument because of the theft of the copper and the public infrastructure.
No, you see, that is just because that is what they feed you with. That's what they feed the public with. But you see, if we do the right thing, you mean, fine, you cannot expose something for Trinidad and Tobago and allow them to see what you're doing, and then it's people who was stolen these copper line, most of them wasn't involved in the industry, you know. And it's because everybody in Trinidad, when you see an opportunity, you take it up. But I am not here this morning and I pay guilty already, you know. I pay guilty for as the president and I see all these things take place, I plead guilty because I'm not going to defend wrong. And I am not here to defend wrong, but what I am here to tell you is that is an industry that we want to take to help out Trinidad and make it in an industry that thousands of people will be able to work in the industry. And I am saying is that if we take that part, that we take the industry and make it exactly a recycling industry, where you go like Singapore, China, and India, and all these places. This industry is an important industry.
It is.
And I am saying all I want to do is for us to take this industry and make it important for Trinidad and Tobago, where thousands of people will get employment. That's all. I'm not to go to fight nobody. I'm not here to talk about the other government that they put a chain on our neck and a chain on my foot. And I was like in shackles. I was in slavery days. I am saying that I move away the chain from my neck and my foot, and I am saying now I want to talk to this government to able for all of us to be free from what went on in the last 3 years to 4 years. That's all I want to do, to be free from slavery days.
So with the export ban that was put on you guys from the past government, how has it been working to kind of start back up? What has been being done?
Well, you see, as I say today, if we don't get this industry fixed back and be on the right path, I've been talking to people who want to close up and stop. And I want to make it clear to you. If we had 160 yards all over Trinidad and Tobago, if I tell you how much we are now, you doubt it. About 26 yards. You understand what I'm saying? And when I mention that we operating on life support right now, people want to know what I'm talking about. But I'm telling you that if we don't fix this industry, we will end up in a lot of problems. A lot of problems for this industry. And that is why I'm asking for the minister to understand us and know the direction that we're going. And I'm saying this morning, the people in the Ministry of Trade work real hard, you know. It's just they had to follow the policy of the government of the day. And I am saying is that we're ready to work and sit down. I think the last policy that the UNC government had in 2013-15, we're going to show them it. I think that policy that they make for this industry could work. We watch it, we take a good look at it, we sit down with them and we work with them to able to come up with all these ideas.
What are the main features of the plan?
Beg pardon?
What were the main features of the plan?
You see, it's about using the same 8 inspectors they have for 26 yards now. Remember, if you have 100 and something yards and you have 8 inspectors to stay in a yard, now when you apply to full containers, an inspector remaining the whole day, and you are 8. So it's only 8 posts, only 8 yards could pull at one time. Sometimes you don't have the 8 inspectors. But you want to have an industry that's growing, but you only have 8 inspectors. Make the inspectors be a centralized one, that the ones for certain areas, go and keep on checking, because you better see the material that you're going to pack in this container, or if you're packing 20 containers, you will be able to see it. So you don't stay in one yard, you move about. So a lot of people could be able to pull each and every day. Because if you do it in a way that it's only when you have an inspector, we can load containers. It don't make sense, because a lot of people have to wait. And that is why I tell you, we have to wait 7 weeks. Sometimes we wait tiredly to make sure that we pull containers. We don't want that. And I could go along this morning until probably 7 o'clock and tell you all the faults that we have in the industry, that is why we suffering so, and people want to shut down. A lot of people close up. A lot of people cannot able to be in this industry again. You hardly see the vans moving about because low prices for van collectors because of what's going on with the scrapyards, and a lot of different things taking place.
Right now, do you have any internal regulation for the industry to prevent any sort of theft or kind of do away from that?
Well, you see, there's a lot of things to prevent people from stealing. Because when you come into my yard, I have to, if you see something that ain't looking right, you need to find out, where you get that from. And if you don't have good proof of where you get from, are you supposed to take it? Inform the police, inform the authorities, because you don't want to have an industry where every minute some police running into your yard and want to know if you have stolen stuff. So it's about people being honest, because let me tell you something, every day people stolen car and thing, you know, every day cars will be stolen, every day people breaking in people's house. When you have a country that sometimes a lot of people not employed, and they don't understand, not because you're not employed, you're supposed to be stealing and doing all kind of things. We find ourselves in a lot of problems. And we want to break down this to people to understand that, listen to me, when you're in this industry, let me work honestly, let me work honest, and you will see how fruitful the industry will get and how we will be able to help Trinidad and Tobago bring in the foreign exchange and help out with taking place.
And that itself is beautiful. But another question, and this is something a viewer is asking as well, if an individual is caught stealing, what do you guys immediately almost fire that person? They're not welcome to come back again?
No, we immediately suspend them. Our association, we do not take part in anybody who is involved in stealing. But at the meantime, even if they get caught, remember they have something in Trinidad. It's only so you could is when they get the court pronounce them guilty.
Yes.
But at the meantime, we suspend them until the court case finish. And when the court case thing, we still do, because you know in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a lot of things going on. You could be honest and still be proven the court guilty. You know, so a lot of things. We just watch it. We just understand it. We just do our own investigations too.
Yes.
But you know, Trinidad is not a lawless country. And you see it every day, how people drive, how people talk to people, how people talk to women, how people talk to the mother. People just don't understand the thing.
A viewer is asking, are individual dealers registered, and are there any barriers to entry?
No, well, we have thousands of people who register with our association.
Okay.
And anybody call us to find out anything, we just have to punch in and find out where you're from and where it is. And we give up the information. You know, I don't make joke with that, because I'm not defending nobody who doing wrong. Not one. And some of them don't like me for that, but that's me.
So, and I know that you do have to run in a little bit, but looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of the scrap iron trade in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, what I would like to do with this scrap business, and I want to make it clear, is that I want to take this scrap industry, and you see, we working on the ground in Trinidad, all the communities. I want to take it to the sea, because our sea have a lot of ships that sink all over, and I want to clean up this. First, I want to clean up Trinidad and Tobago shores, the seas, and then go to the whole Caribbean, because there's a lot of ships sinking in the sea, and we need to cut it up and get rid of the material. Yes. And I will be offering the government free to do all of that. No money they rather pay. We just want to make Trinidad and Tobago a free society from all this rubbish and all this metal that's sinking and causing our water courses damage. That's all my thing, to make this industry one of the largest industry in the Caribbean.
So even on that, what is the value of the scrap iron industry in terms of foreign exchange?
This industry is $1 billion industry. $1 billion industry. And the only industry that have a little money in it, that reach down to the poor people. The poor. You know, because have industry, they just stay the money, they stay with the rich. But this industry reach down to the poorest. The poorest. Because you could get involved as a poor person. You don't need to have a certificate of, you don't need to have, you study in UV, or you don't need to study in some big university, you know. All you need to know is how to pick up a piece of iron with our gloves.
Yes. Yes.
Or when you're going down a cliff, how to go down the cliff to pick up your stove and throw down there.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all you need to do. Know how to do these things. And every normal people in the street know how to do these things. That is why it is so important to keep this industry strong.
How can the public support you?
Eh?
How can the public support you?
Well, the thing about it is, remember, I do a lot, and I go around to all different communities, and I give hampers, and I talk to the youths and them to stay away from crime, and that's one of my biggest drive in Trinidad, you know. Different communities know me, and I go around to this community and help out poor people with hampers, and help them out if they're broke or if anything wrong, I help them and fix it. So that is why I am a person in the ground, in the ghetto, in the communities that need help. And I'm not a politician, you know. I'm not a politician.
So you have the communities, but how can the communities support your fights?
Well, it's not about a fight, because, I mean, we have to be fair. This is a new government, and we have to see, because we can't say the fight. We can't say that we fighting with them, because, I mean, we have a meeting yet with them. So we have to give them all the opportunity to listen to us and work with me. That's all we want to do. We don't want to fight with nobody, you know. We want to fight with the criminals. We want to fight with the people who want to rob the country. That's who we go with fighting with.
And I have to take us back to the question about the foreign exchange. The foreign exchange. A viewer is asking, is it a billion dollar industry for Trinidad, or is that a worldwide statistic?
Repeat back your question, because I don't want to answer wrong.
Is the scrap iron industry a billion dollar industry for Trinidad or worldwide?
Not in Trinidad. Because you see, we don't have, why we could do better here by bringing in a lot of money is if we get the opportunity to able to work in a way that this industry, our industry, is volume. If we're able to do more volume, we could be able to bring in a lot of foreign exchange. But they don't understand, because you see, in Trinidad and Tobago, if your skin look a little bit like mine, there's a problem, you know. We know nothing, you know. And I think if I had a different color, they would understand. But you see me now, I can't tell them about recycling, and I can't tell them because I didn't went to university, and I didn't went to that. I learned this based, and I just understand it based on people teach me how to about this industry, and for to know that I don't have no title on my name. And that's the problem in Trinidad. As long as you don't have no title on your name, that's your problem. Okay?
Yeah, so we're about to wrap. So what you want is essentially a meeting with this new government. You want them to support your members and the industry's future.
Yeah, we just want them to work with us as they was working in 2013 and 14. They was working with us to make the industry better. We just want them to continue that, and that is the area we will be going when we meet with them.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you so much, Mr. Ferguson.
No problem. I want to thank you on this station for giving me the opportunity for people to understand what we're facing.
It's a very important discussion.
Yeah.
So I do hope that you get all that you require from this government. And we could probably have a conversation when you get some sort of feedback from them.
No problem. It will be my pleasure.
All right. So that was Mr. Alan Ferguson, President of the Trinidad and Tobago Scrap Iron Association. All right. So we're just going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with you. Stay with us.
Her voice has mesmerized us for years.
And now, in a rare treat for music fans,
Shakuntala and Friends in concert, featuring Shakuntala Jang Bahadur. Singing sensation Deval Chaitlal, brilliant musician Dr. Shivanan Maharaj, master flautist and saxophonist Narendra Maharaj, with music from Shiv Sangeet Orchestra. Shakuntala and Friends in concert.
Shakuntala.
Struggling with heart health or frequent migraines? Discover the simple steps to reclaim your energy and vitality.
We're diving into a topic that affects about 422 million people around the world: diabetes.
Tune into Wellness Unlocked, the series that delivers expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your health and well-being. Your health matters. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and take the first step toward better health.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private health care affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
This is 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
And it's, nah, you don't need to register nothing. You don't need, we can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
They believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back to AM Prime. All right, so we're just going to continue with some news
updates,
stories, news updates. So this one I found was pretty interesting. Some days ago, 10 men escaped from a New Orleans jail by slipping through a hole behind a toilet. Then they scaled a wall and then was able to run away into the streets. So a lot of them have murder charges on their records, and they would have left quite an impression back at the jail that they escaped from. So take a look at this video.
All right, now to this still developing story out of New Orleans, a day after 10 inmates escaped from a jail there. Some of them have been caught, but authorities are still searching for some of the others, and they say they are armed and dangerous. NBC's Ryan Chandler is following this one for us from New Orleans. Ryan, what's the very latest?
Laura, good morning. As of this hour, 7 of those fugitives are still on the run. Hundreds of agents on a massive manhunt that could span well outside of New Orleans at this point. Law enforcement officials pleading with the public to be on high alert and to share any information that they may have. Here's what we know about who exactly escaped yesterday. Jail records show us that at least 4 of these fugitives are charged with murder or attempted murder. Other charges also include violent offenses, including aggravated assault with a firearm, armed robbery, battery, also drug offenses. Officials say that these men should be considered armed and dangerous. Law enforcement says that they escaped just before 12:30 Friday morning. There is this just jaw-dropping video of the men trying to break through the cell door, then running out of the prison and making a mad dash across the interstate. The jail did not find out that they were missing until the head count later that morning. That was more than 7 hours later. The sheriff's office also releasing some of these photos of their escape route, which includes this hole that they dug in a cell wall, including some parting words that they left with some graffiti above that hole, just simply mocking the sheriff's office, writing things like, "Too easy, LOL, we out, catch us when you can." 3 of those fugitives have already been caught and they're back in custody. One was found in the French Quarter. You can see video of his arrest right here. He was found hiding under a car in the parking garage of a hotel. All day yesterday, the public and the press here in New Orleans were demanding answers and accountability from the sheriff's office, many focusing on why the public was not notified of this breach for some 10 hours after the escape. The sheriff's office acknowledges that there were some serious security failures at this jail, including possibly an inside job. They have placed 3 of their employees on suspension, suspecting that there may have been some collaboration from inside the jail to assist these inmates in escaping. And still today, the search continues. Some 200 agents involved in this manhunt. Local police say they do have active leads on the remaining 7 fugitives, but they are saying the public is going to be a crucial part of bringing them back to justice. And they are, again, pleading with anybody who may know where these men are to reach out to them. Laura.
A lot of questions on this one for authorities. Ryan Chandler in New Orleans for us. Thank you.
Yes, so to reiterate, officials from the New Orleans Department, specifically Sheriff Susan Hudson, said the men were able to get out of the New Orleans Justice Center because of defective locks and possibly with help from people inside the department. She's quoted as saying, "It's almost impossible, not completely, but almost impossible for anybody to get out of this facility without help."
Oh, well, that's interesting because my first thought was, you know, if prisoners can exploit weaknesses within the infrastructure of a prison building, then that says something about the maintenance, the upkeep.
Yeah. The entire disposition towards the center.
Yeah.
I mean, the center houses a little over 1,400 people.
Mm-hmm.
And if 10 were able to just dig a hole, nobody saw that they were digging a hole. And even if they did see, there was no mandate, no sort of, I'm going to report that.
And the thing is, even though, you know, in the report it said they didn't realize until the next morning when they did a head count, which is about 7 hours later, immediately you're supposed to notify the public because this now becomes a public safety matter. And they said it took about 10 hours.
10 hours.
Unless it's 10 hours after they found out, or if it's the full 10 hours, then 3 hours after they found out.
That's still a lot of time. What if you worked the night shift that night? What if you were just taking a nighttime stroll and all of a sudden you see a bunch of prisoners or somebody who you wouldn't know but has a record of murder or armed robbery, or attempted murder, just coming your way.
Yep.
Somebody who's been in jail.
Coming back out for somebody that they have a vendetta out for.
Exactly.
So,
and I hate to say this, but if you saw the video, if you were looking at the video, you saw the men escape from how they were running. It's almost cartoonish.
It looks like a movie.
It looks like a movie.
Like you see these things in movies and you don't expect them to be real. You don't think that these things actually happen until they do.
Yeah, it looks a little comical in a way, but it's not. I mean, it's about 7 of them still out there that have not been caught as yet, and officials are calling on the public to kind of help with the manhunt. They have increased their reward amount from $5,000 to $10,000 US dollars per escapee. Crime Stoppers reward was increased from $2,000 to $5,000, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives are offering a reward of $5,000.
Wow.
So between the range of $5,000 to $10,000 as of right now. Per escapee.
Per escapee. Wow.
So if you find 2, that could be $20,000. But yes, I do hope that they're able to get all the men that escaped into custody, and then of course tack that prison escape charge onto whatever they were serving.
Once they get them back into the prison, now the prison needs to reassess not only their infrastructure, but if it was an inside job with some officer, prison officer, then they have to do an internal investigation into how did these inmates escape? How did they get the tools to even...
Because it was behind a toilet. It was behind a toilet. No, it is quite comical in nature, in how they would have escaped. But yes, all we can do is hope that they get all 10 men back into custody. I heard that the 1 or 2 of the men, most likely it will be all 3 of them, they didn't carry them back to the same prison, which makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense, because now they know how to get out. Yeah, so they need to put them into a prison where...
Oh, well, yeah, because they don't know if they're friends with any prison officers there who's just going to help them again. So,
yeah. So I do hope that this additional charge is tacked on and it adds some years, because this shouldn't set a precedent.
If you can get years off of your sentence for good behavior, there must be something where you get years added for bad behavior.
Horrible behavior.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are going to move forward. Right now, we would have discovered a story from the BBC uncovering child sex abuse in South Africa's illegal mines. It's a very shocking, horrible story that is quite distressing. So I'm just going to talk about it for a little bit. In South Africa, they've been recruiting cheap labor, but some persons were brought in not just for the labor, but for the purposes of sex. Young children, ages 15 and 16.
I just saw from the report, I saw as young as 8.
As young as 8?
Yeah, as young as 8. Forced to work. Well, I don't know what kind of work, but it's labor, it's sex trafficking, it's abuse, a variety of things. They haven't gone into detail as to what these children have been going through.
When you'll take a look at the video soon, during the video they were saying that these children are approached by elderly men, older men working in the mines, and they are approached for different types of sex, so oral sex and other things like that. They were saying what the effect of the request was on the children, and they say that the children become less trusting. They don't let people approach them. But they are still forced to work in these mines. Now, the report uncovered did help with some sort of recovery effort for some of the children in some of the mines. But they were saying that, I don't have the actual number right now, but the amount of mines that they would have to go through means that this issue will prevail for a long time. And it's going to be difficult to put a handle on it for a while.
They even they stopped allowing them to take supplies down into this mine. So they are working to, avoid anything coming in and out too often because they are not sure how bad it is.
So we are having a little bit of an issue to show the video to you right now. So what we are going to do is just take a short break because we do have another interview coming up for you guys that is really exciting, also in the professional space. So stay with us and we'll be right back with you.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we kind of have a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man is being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
Feeling drained? Struggling to keep up? It's time to take control of your wellness. On this episode of Wellness Unlocked, we're diving into the key nutrients your body needs for all-day energy and balance. With 100% or more of your daily essential vitamins, plus added chromium to support healthy blood sugar, this is complete wellness in a single soft gel. Join us as we uncover how small changes can make a big impact on your health. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and take the first step toward better health.
Hi, I'm Claudette, radiographer at the radiology departments at the community hospital. We offer high-quality service with state-of-the-art equipment in X-ray, ultrasound, CT, and mammogram. Come, our friendly staff awaits you.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Her voice has mesmerized us for years.
And now, in a rare treat for music fans,
Shakuntala and Friends in concert, featuring Shakuntala Jangbahadur. Singing sensation Deval Chaiklal, brilliant musician Dr. Shivanan Maharaj, master flautist and saxophonist Narendra Maharaj, with music from Shiv Sangeet Orchestra, Shakuntala and Friends in concert.
Shakuntala,
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas, and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available. SM Group International Limited, your solutions partner for the latest innovations, brands, and competent staff to meet your needs. We provide products and services in the following divisions: executive services, event rental and services, power and heavy equipment, construction and property management, food and beverage, aggregate and sales and distribution. Check out more on our products and services at www.smgrouptt.com. Contact us at 221-7445 or email at info@smgrouptt.com. We are SM Group International, your solutions partner.
If you've gotten to the point where you have the aches and pains and they're on a daily basis, they're not transient anymore, then it's probably gone already a little bit too far, right? So what a patient has to understand, what your audience has to understand, is the fact that you need to pay attention to self now, in that perimenopausal age range.
We're talking about 40s.
Right? In your 40s.
From the time you hit 40,
in your
start
40s,
to
you know it's coming. You can't escape it, right?
Start to change the way you take care of yourself.
Yes, exactly. And you have to know what options are available to you.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
In the studio, now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need, we can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploiting the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital.
How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break a balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the
not no.
Let's go to the last part.
Good morning and welcome back to the program. So today we are talking about the Caribbean Human Resources Conference. Loud 25, in collaboration with Disrupt HR Port of Spain and the Human Resource Management Association of Trinidad and Tobago, is set to ignite vital conversations on orchestrating success in a rapidly evolving workplace, bringing together global thought leaders, leading-edge strategies, and bold ideas to help Caribbean businesses navigate digital disruption and workplace transformation. The Caribbean is finding itself at a pivotal crossroads: AI, automation, and the hybrid work model that is reshaping our workplaces. So the World Economic Forum predicts millions of jobs will be displaced by 2025. So today, to talk about these issues and how the conference aims to address them, Ms. Kimberly Lodgy, Client Experience Consultant and Lead Researcher of the Caribbean Society for Human Resource Professionals, and Ms. Natalie Fagan, Caribbean Society for Human Resource Professionals Workshop Facilitator. So good morning and welcome to the program, ladies.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Thanks for having us.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you on. It's a very pleasure to have you on. So Loud 25 Disrupted brings together several bold voices. So what inspired this collaboration? That could be for Ms. Natalie Fagan.
Okay, so Caribbean Society for HR Professionals, we've had a very long-standing relationship with Disrupt HR Caribbean. We've supported their Barbados and Jamaica events in the past, and since we were both planning to host events in Trinidad this year, the timing felt perfect to merge forces and create a bold, unified experience. And of course, the HR Management Association of TNT is the primary voice for HR in Trinidad. So we could never come to Trinidad without first connecting with them. They are known for their strong culture of collaboration, and we are very happy to have HR Mat as a partner in this experience. Orchestrating success. It speaks to what leaders and organizations are being called to do right now. We're being called to coordinate across people, across systems, and across strategies in ways that are agile, inclusive, and future-focused. So the theme acknowledges the disruption, but also challenges to conduct it and not just react it.
So why is the theme orchestrating success so important to HR and business leaders right now?
The landscape that we're operating in is changing, and we need to prepare ourselves to actually step ahead of this change. And the Strategic Workforce Planning Workshop, which will actually kick off the Loud 25 Disrupted Experience, is actually going to lay that groundwork for people to actually think about people-first business decisions. So if you look on HR professionals, and what the research has shown us is 65 to 75% of HR's time is spent on routine tasks. And it's not because we only want to do routine tasks, it's because we really have to do these routine tasks. Only 5 to 15% of our time is spent on truly transformational work. So our conference, Orchestrating Success, is to help HR professionals to really and truly become more strategic. How do they lead people operations? How do you think about integrating AR and VR into your operations? How do you deliver on regulatory changes that are coming. So we're working together as an HR fraternity to actually develop and build and really hone our HR experience.
That's beautiful. Ms. Laji, you are the lead researcher at the Caribbean Society for Human Resource Professionals. So based on what Mr. Fagan was saying, what are the biggest misconceptions that you think business leaders still have about the future of work, and how does the event aim to challenge that or change that?
Well, I know in the Caribbean, we tend to think that, AI is out to steal our jobs. But as Natalie said, if used strategically, we can help to boost the productivity of organizations. It can be used to make a strategic move. And we can produce better outcomes. We can recruit better talent. I know that there's some organizations right here in Jamaica who actually use these technologies in their recruitment and their onboarding processes.
Yes.
So it is beneficial in a lot of ways. We just have to be mindful of how we use it and not have a blind eye.
So even on AI and automation, if we could just focus on that a little bit. These technologies are, as you would have said, impacting HR practices across the Caribbean. So how should businesses respond? Like how would this conference sort of equip them to respond? And this question can be for both of you. We can start with Ms. Bacon.
Okay, so when it comes to the AR, AI, VR, so what we'll be doing, we'll be introducing how you can actually bring some of these technologies into your workforce. So we'll be exposing our HR professionals to how augmented reality can bring on-the-job training to life.
Yes.
So we'll be exposing them to how virtual reality can actually simulate, or you can imagine coming to an interview by going downstairs, putting on your VR headset and just being immersed into that experience.
Yes.
So we'll be exposing our HR professionals to the tools that are actually being used in some organizations, and Kimberly can speak to one of our workshop hosts, Ravi, and what he will definitely be bringing to the table. Kimberly?
Right. Thanks, Natalie. So as Natalie mentioned, we'll have a lot of content that focuses on AR, VR, well, the whole XR spectrum. So Ravi VS from Malaysia, he's going to be talking about immersive intelligence, but not only that, he'll also do a presentation on immersive learning on a budget, which I know a lot of our Caribbean businesses, they were smaller in comparison to global entities. So budget is always a consideration, but the conference doesn't only focus on AR, VR. It actually focuses on how do we onboard legislative change as well. And we have presenters like Loyette from Jamaica, originally from Guyana, who'd be speaking about compliance meets connection. We'll have Brittany Brathwaite doing a workshop next week, Tuesday, on boarding the legislative change as well, the Balancing Act. How do we harmonize our company policies with our regional and international labor laws, the standards that are already set. So we have a lot of different types of content, all in the name of orchestrating success. We don't want to be reactive, as Natalie mentioned before. So these workshops, these presentations are meant to help the attendees, the audience, to be more proactive in their approach and to develop strategies. We want to help you learn how to adapt to the changes that are ever evolving.
So just to clear something up for viewers, the XR is really extended reality. It refers to a range of technologies that combine physical and digital environments to create immersive experiences. And that, I think, is pretty high-tech and modern for Caribbean bodies to come together and be doing that. Is sounds really exciting.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, it is.
Working in our recruitment, it's really exciting. You can imagine.
I bet.
The process can be tedious, can be lengthy. So having that little helper,
yes,
would really be a good advantage.
And that mindset sort of extends to the attendees about having that little helper, as you say.
Exactly.
Yes.
Natalie, you're leading a pre-conference workshop on strategic workforce planning. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what attendees would be able to take away from that?
Okay, so strategic workforce planning, it is pretty much a forward-looking approach that will enable our organizations to identify and respond to both their internal and external talent needs. So it's about shaping the conversations, shaping how HR resonates at the table. So moving away from being a cost center to actually driving the conversations that will take our organizations forward. Imagine coming to work. When you're driving to work this morning, I don't know if you do it, but I do it. I turn on my GPS, even though I know where I'm going, just to find the best route to my office in the mornings. So strategic workforce planning is supposed to be that roadmap that actually shows you what you're looking for, who are the people, what are the skills that you need to future-proof your organization, so you know that AI is coming into the organization. Do you need to be reskilling your employees? Do you need to find a particular skill set that will actually help you to stay ahead of this change? What is the ideal structure to meet the organizational goals? It will also help you to spot all the roadblocks. So what are some of the potential risks? Who are the talent that we need to ensure that we are engaging and actually preparing to take us forward? So it's nothing new. It's just giving you a structured approach and helping you to craft that language that you will use to capture the data and to actually start executing more strategically. So it's using the data that you have. It's just how you pull everything together. So attendees will walk away with a structured plan and tools that they can use to actually change the narrative and become more transformational in the conversations with their leaders.
So even on the conversation of regulation, as of right now, there isn't much, or I would say any regulation on AI and VR, the entire XR experience. How are you guys focusing on more ethical considerations when you're talking about regulation in the workplace?
Can I really hear you taking that one, or do I need to?
Well, yes. So Brittany, as I said, we'll have conversations about onboarding legislative change. That's one of our sub-themes. We actually have 4 sub-themes: leading people operations, onboarding legislative change, unveiling the quantum era, and decoding AR/VR for employee development. So under the onboarding the legislative change, that's where content like that would come out. So we also have laureates talking about, as I said, compliance meets connection, and we'll be exploring the legal implications, the considerations that we need to have as we onboard these kinds of technologies and make these shifts in our organizations. Because we know that there is very little legislation right now and policies, company policies, to guide these processes. C# actually produces templates, and we have, last year we produced a template on the use of AI in the workplace. So we do try to fill that gap as much as we can. We do have experts, subject matter experts, who are from the legal fraternity, who help to review and to vet that information to make it as applicable to as many companies, as many industries as possible. So coming out of this conference, we do plan to develop some more templates to guide or to help to guide persons who need it.
I appreciate that you guys are almost cutting in front or taking the front to almost future-proof these industries, AI. Because as you rightfully said, we don't have any sort of legal or regulations. So I appreciate that you guys are taking front with that. Instituting it for yourself.
I'd just like to add as well that we will have HR professionals at the conference whose organization has already started looking on this, has already set up the governance structures, has already done some of the testing, And what the conference will bring is just that opportunity to connect and to network and to learn from each other. So not just the presenters, not just the workshop facilitators, but just your peers who've already lived some of the experiences that you're interested in understanding how they went about it. So that's also a big value add to the conference.
So the conference promises a hybrid, disruptive format. So for those unfamiliar, what should attendees expect from Disrupt HR's approach?
So Loud 25 is a conference that's designed to be engaging and energizing. We've taken feedback from attendees every year, and every year we modify how we approach the conference. So over the years, we've introduced what we call activation sessions for Loud. We have introduced the workshops coming out of those feedback from the attendees. And we don't want it to be overwhelming. We don't want you to leave with a headache or to forget everything that you've learned, you know? So we've been deliberate in how we've structured our agenda to include the thought-provoking content and the interactive elements, and also the space to connect meaningfully. And Disrupt HR, which is going to be happening on day 2, which is Friday, June 6th. It's you can think of it like TEDx for HR. So it's short, it's powerful. They're 5-minute presentations. The slides are moving really fast. So it's no fluff. All the fluff is taken out. You get straight to the point, and you can get to the point in 5 minutes. The Loud presentations are 10 minutes. So we want you to be as deliberate as you can as a presenter, so that the attendees get the meat of the matter without all the extra fluff.
The vegetables and rice on the plate, yes. So for decision makers who may feel a bit overwhelmed by the speed of change, because it is changing very quickly, what's one immediate step they can take to future-proof their talent strategy and recruitment?
Mindset. You have to change your mindset. With this type of technology and the pace at which it is coming on board and evolving, it's not years, it's months and weeks. So if you don't have a mindset that is adaptive to change, then you're going to be left behind. So we have to embrace that adaptability, and it really is a competitive edge when you're able to pivot like that. And then from there, you invest in learning, because with this new technology, there is a learning curve. So especially your HR teams and your leadership teams should understand how these technologies work and how they can be leveraged, you know, to benefit and to achieve the company goals.
Kimberly, you know, moving from policy-based to people and innovation-focused HR, can you talk a little bit about what does that transformation look like on the ground?
Yeah, so as Natalie said, a lot of what HR does is routine tasks. So if you can set up a system, and Leslie, I forgot his name, from Trinidad, is like the AI, the AI guru of the Caribbean. You know, I see him at every conference that I've gone to. People like him, his company is something that is really beautiful for the Caribbean, because he can help to guide your processes, to help you build out your content, your software, you know, to streamline and to automate a lot of the things that were previously manual and time consuming. So it will free you up. It will free up your employees to have more time to focus on, I won't say meaningful tasks, but other tasks. Because all the tasks I presume are meaningful, you know, but when you have so much manual labor involved, it really can take a burden on you, and it makes you less efficient if you're not careful. So more productivity, probably better well-being, employee well-being as well.
That is important.
Yeah, exactly. Because people nowadays, especially the younger generation coming up, who eat, sleep, breathe this technology, we have to be able to adapt for them incoming as well. We have multiple generations in the workforce. That's actually another topic, another presentation we'll do is generational diversity in the workplace.
So it's very thorough.
So we're trying to tackle as many angles as possible so that you can truly orchestrate the success in the company.
That is beautiful. Ms. Fagan, I saw that you maybe wanted to say something or...
No. I think I missed the point. I think so it was on the point where you asked what is one thing that leaders can do to get ahead of the changes that are coming. And Kimberly answered it pretty perfectly. I just wanted to add one small thing. We need to create cultures where people feel comfortable with innovating, feel comfortable with making mistakes, because that's the only way you can innovate. So if you have a culture where people are afraid to take risks, are afraid to make decisions, are afraid to just really turn up, then we will never get ahead of the change. So I just wanted to say the culture, because they always say culture eats strategy for breakfast. So having the right culture, partnering with your HR to build out that culture is one of the things that we need to really prioritize in today's markets.
I want to ask about, in your view, do you think that the Caribbean workforce is ready for these changes ahead, especially when it comes to small businesses and youth in the Caribbean?
Well, it's a mixed bag, I think. There are some companies, as Natalie said, and right here in Jamaica, who are already in the game. They're already playing the game, you know, and have been for quite some time and are able to expand more quickly and more extensively than some smaller companies. There are small companies too who try to utilize this technology according to their budget and their capacity, their manpower at the time. So it's a mixed bag. It's going to take like some nursing. You have to massage it a little, especially for companies or persons in leadership who are apprehensive to change, who like things done the traditional way, who think that, if it's not fixed, don't touch it, leave it alone. But if we can optimize processes, then, by all means, do so. Change your process, because you never know the kinds of outcome, the increase in revenue, the increase in productivity that could come out of just one small change, one.
So apart from the business leaders and the small business owners, who are the other stakeholders, the employees, the staff, and how do they fit in to this transformation strategy?
So at the conference, we will have like HR managers, we'll have HR officers, we have the whole spectrum. We have people who aren't necessarily HR professionals, but they have an interest in HR, or they have HR functions. It's open to students, it's open to university faculty. So we do have some persons from the education industry who would be in attendance too, because you have to get them young. You have to groom them and help them to understand what the workforce of tomorrow is like or is going to be. Teaching them how to make those changes, how to think, not just teaching them how to do, because if you do without knowing how to think, you'll get lost or manipulated very easily. So that's very important. So we'll try to tackle everything as holistically as we can.
So say I am an attendee, how would you advise me to sort of gear up for this conference?
Pack your bags. If you're coming from overseas, pack your bags from now. If you're already in Trinidad, buy your tickets at cshrpteam.com. We have virtual and in-person options. It is a hybrid conference. Every year it's hybrid. The Disrupt HR segments, however, will be in person only and would require a separate registration. That link is also available on our website. when you go to the Loud 25 conference page.
All right. Well, I was just actually going to ask if this was an annual event, but when and where can we see a partnership like this again? Is it annually in May? How
Yes.
long has it been going on for as well?
This is actually the 5th staging. The first staging should have happened in 2020, but then, we had, the visits of COVID. So we ended up starting instead in 2021, and we've had it every year since then.
This is
beautiful. Staging.
Can you repeat
And we hop around countries every year.
Do you have any idea of where you'll be next?
Not yet. Usually on the last day, the Friday, we take a vote. The attendees will vote on where the host country for the next conference would be. So Trinidad was actually voted for unanimously.
Yes, I can see that. I can see Trinis saying I wanted to happen in Trinidad.
Yes, for sure.
So, do you have any parting words, any words of encouragement to get persons to come out? Because I'm sure that there's already a full slate of people coming out, but if there are any more available spaces, how would you advise people to gear up and come out?
Well, we would love for persons to be able to attend however they can. We are very understanding. We understand that, it takes time for some people to get their approvals and all of that. We're patient. We'll write you the letter. We'll write you the invitation letter to expedite the process if necessary. But we just really want you to benefit from this information from the pre-conference workshops that start next week, Monday, which also will be recorded and will be accessible to every single attendee. All of that content is going to help you in your organization. We're also preparing a template, for you to have a business trip form so that you can actually document what you've learned and present it to your management so that a decision can be made. So we want everyone, as much persons as possible, to be able to benefit from that kind of content. To implement change and to really make the Caribbean competitive.
So there's actionable steps afterwards. It's not just the end at the conference. It's here's what you can do to institute change in your organization.
Exactly.
And how you all would have had to learn this over the course of the 5 years? Was it always this thorough, or was this learning, trial and error?
Yes, we learn every year. Every year we look at we have a huddle after, and we decide, what worked, what could be improved, what should be removed, what should be added. As I said, we've added activation sessions because of things like that. We've added workshops because of conversations like that. So coming out of this year's event, we'll see, what works and what should be added, what could be removed, just to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our attendees and not just creating an event that we think attendees want, but they're not really benefiting from.
That is important. I'm glad that you guys have the foresight to see that. To Ms. Fagan, a parting question for you would be, how do you see events like Loud 25 Disrupted shaping not just HR, but economic resilience and innovation across the Caribbean?
So the conversations, the facilitators, the presenters, just seeing what other companies are doing, what other HR professionals are exposed to, just interacting with each other and learning from each other is how I believe that conferences like these can actually impact our economy and foster innovation. As Kim explained, Disrupt HR, 5-minute content. Loud 25, 10-minute content. So pretty much we're just hitting the nail on the head. We're driving home the point that we want to make, and we're really exposing our people, our colleagues, to what is out there and what they can do quickly. And then we have the after conference interaction where we can deep dive. And even C-Sharp sends newsletters weekly, monthly. They have courses that are driven through Caribbean Society for HR Professionals. So it's not just the conference, it's the content that we're building over the period that we can share with our community.
That is wonderful. So just to hit the key points of this conference for virtual access, the amount is US $75 for non-C# members. In-person access is US. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, so it's 75 US for virtual non-C# members. For in-person access, it's $350 US for non-C# members. If you are a member, you would get a significantly discounted rate. We do have bundles though on our registration page. So if you want to sign up for membership along with your conference registration, there are those options there, and you can choose from our 4 different membership tiers, ranging from scholar to distinguished fellow for persons who have masters and persons who are students.
I understand.
And Kim, you can mention the opportunities for sponsorship as well.
Correct. We would still love to have some more sponsors on board. We have designed a sponsorship deck, you know, some entitlements that we think are really beneficial, you know, pre-conference and post-conference. So Natalie mentioned our weekly newsletter. We would have that avenue for you to be able to advertise your products, your business, your innovations, you know, and there are the Meet the Brand sessions, there are webinars, there are just a lot of different entitlements or benefits that you can receive as a Loud sponsor. And it doesn't just stop here at the conference. It can be prolonged, you know, so that you engage with our regional community, because our membership spans more than 10 Caribbean countries and the diaspora, and it's growing every day. So there are perks to sponsoring, there are perks to being a member. So we would encourage anyone who's interested to reach out to us. You can email loud, LOUD, at cshrpteam.com, and we can take the conversation from there.
So that is loud at cshrpteam.com?
Correct.
All right, I'm also seeing a website, www.cshrpteam.com, for more information.
Yes.
So
you just add as well, Disrupt HR tickets are separate. So it's $40 US for single, $30 for groups of 2 to 5, and for groups of 5 to 10 is $25 USD.
Okay, and that's where you was talking about the separate registration.
Yes. It can be accessed through C-Sharp's website. So you don't have to be hopping all over the place, you know, trying to find the links.
Everything can be found on www.cshrpteam.com.
Yes.
So this conference is happening on June 5th to the 7th of this year. The location is at St. Clair, Port of Spain. So if you are interested, please go to www.cshrpteam.com for more information, anything you'd like to find out. And of course, reach out to them if you have any questions that they'll be able to answer for you. All right, so we do thank you ladies for coming on and telling us about this conference. I think it's a very innovative initiative. It's something that I didn't think that we had in the Caribbean, and I'm glad to see it's being done.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
You do have a beautiful day.
And happy International HR Day.
Yay!
Actually.
Yay, that's amazing. That means today was the perfect day for us to have this. So thanks for coming on and telling us that and for sharing.
Indeed.
An absolute pleasure. Bye-bye. Have a beautiful day.
Bye.
All right, so we're just going to take a short break and we'll be right back with you with some more regional updates. Stay with us.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Mind? Boost energy and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private healthcare affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Okay, so we're starting off with something that's, it was a surprise announcement. This came from the White House, sorry, not from the White House. He's no longer in the White House. Former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Officials say he's undergoing treatment and remains he's in an all right condition. But there's speculation fueling around his health while he was in office. So, and you know how long this has been going on for. So, take a look.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ayman Mohideen here at MSNBC World Headquarters in New York. We've got some breaking news that we want to share with you at this hour. We are learning this afternoon that former President Joe Biden, the 46th President of the United States, has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Biden, who is 82 years old, has what his office is calling a more aggressive form of the disease. The former president is currently reviewing multiple treatment options while he is resting in Wilmington, Delaware with his family. Joining us now is Dr. Vin Gupta, MSNBC medical contributor. Dr. Gupta, it's good to have you with us. First of all, let me get your reaction to this news that we're learning right now from the former president about this prostate cancer diagnosis.
Well, I mean, based on the information that we have, it's a serious diagnosis. And for those of our viewers that have a loved one or have experienced this themselves, know well, prostate cancer can exist in a pretty indolent form for many, many people, and they can live with it for many years. And it doesn't cause a lot of problems. But once you start to hear things like bone metastases, which is the case for the former president, and when you start to hear Gleason scores, which is a way in which we characterize the severity of prostate cancer, and that number being, in this case, 9 or 10. Those are the more severe manifestations of prostate cancer. Once you start to hear these terms being thrown around, and we don't have a lot of information available to us, that connotes seriousness. Even if there is treatment options available here, like hormone treatment options, that this is hormone receptive, it doesn't, given that he's 82, given that, there's been a lot, obviously, over the last few years talking about his performance status and just how he overall is functioning, he's not going to be the greatest candidate for aggressive chemotherapy to deal with what is an aggressive form, it seems, by all indications, an aggressive form of prostate cancer. So this is a worrisome diagnosis. It's very serious. And the question here is, what type of chemotherapy can he tolerate at 82, and what does that mean for his life expectancy?
So, this is a difficult turn of events for,
the Biden family.
Joe Biden, yeah, because, he's 82. Dealing with something like this is not will not be easy. He has made comments that, you know, everybody, cancer affects everybody. You know, we've all had some sort of experience with it, a family member, whether it's or personal, you know, meaning you. But yeah, there were concerns over, you know, if this was going on while he was in office, because, you know, if you remember earlier this year, during the elections, he opted out
of running
again.
And passed the baton to Kamala Harris.
Kamala, yeah. So that there's discussions around that as well, but I think people are more focusing now on, you know, how he's doing, his treatment, giving him, you know, the space to, I guess, properly heal and go through this with his family, which is nice, because I think, you know, we cancer is so unpredictable, and we can't expect. We don't know what to expect.
Yeah, the fact that it spread to his bones, that means that is really, really aggressive. But he was the oldest serving president during that time. Yes, he was the oldest person to serve as president.
He does not look it.
He does not look it. I think he would have done a fine job. Some of his top accomplishments were that he passed the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package to increase investment in the network of bridges, roads, airports. He also helped more than 500 million life-saving COVID-19 vaccinations in the arms of Americans through the American Rescue Plan, which is something that he would have instituted. He's done a myriad of things as president. So I think even if he was going through something like this during his time as president, he still did a fine job.
Yeah.
As president, and again, he was the oldest one.
He's receiving a lot of support from world leaders, he even got a message from the White House, you know, on his speedy recovery and all these things. So everybody's coming together to support him and wish him the best.
And here at WESN, we wish the same. We wish for a speedy recovery for him and his family to be able to enjoy the rest of his life with them. So, on some sort of a lighter news, we want to touch on Pope Leo's inauguration. I think 2 days ago he was inaugurated as Pope Leo. So please take a look at this video on his inauguration.
This morning, Catholics in the Chicago area are waking up to head to Mass, and for the first time ever, they will pray for an American Pope who has roots just like them. Pope Leo XIV, born on the south side of Chicago, raised in the south suburbs, has now been officially installed as the 267th pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church. And just after that official installation Mass here in Vatican City earlier today, Pope Leo shared a deeply personal moment with one of his own family members. Take a look. Pope Leo XIV was greeting dignitaries and guests inside St. Peter's Basilica and then stepped out of line to embrace his brother Louis, his brother that lives in Florida, who traveled here to Vatican City to celebrate this moment for his family. The two grew up on the south side of Chicago and were reportedly deeply devout, raised in Catholic roots. And just before that Mass, Pope Leo XIV rode through St. Peter's Square, 200,000 people waiting to see him on the back of the Bmobile for the first time. And in that humble way we have seen him so far, he sort of had a quiet smile, an understated wave, as he was sort of taking in everything that was happening in real time. We spoke to some young students from the Chicago area who were raised Catholic about what this moment meant for them to witness.
I know my grandma's so happy. She was telling me when I came, she's like, I need like rosaries, gave me something with the Pope on it. I'm like, I will find it. So I know she was so excited when she's like, oh my God, you're going to see the Pope, you're going to see the Pope. So I feel like I just can share the excitement with her, tell her.
I feel like it feels like a dream. Like, you know, when you're Catholic, I was, you know, since I was a little girl, I was always Catholic. I was an altar server. So just like being here, it just makes me feel good. Like if I was like, to be at home.
Some of those students waved their Chicago flags as the Pope passed, trying to get his attention with some hometown pride. And that's really the sense you get from people here. They are immensely proud to have a Pope from Chicago. We saw some baseball caps of Chicago sports teams scattered around St. Peter's Square. During his homily, we heard from Pope Leo about the need for unity, peace, and love. He will now step onto the world stage as he officially begins his papacy.
All right, so the inauguration happened in St. Peter's Square. I don't know if you saw the little part there where the Pope was riding in on what they call the Bmobile. I find that so fun. So fun. He was standing and giving a little wave to the crowds. Following that, he was given the ring of the fisherman by a cardinal. It's a special ring that symbolizes his rule of the tradition that dates back to the time of St. Peter, who was a fisherman. He also received the pallium, which is a strip of lamb's wool, symbolizing his role as a shepherd. And as you would have heard the reporter say there at the end, he is the 267th pontiff, and he calls for unity within the church. And during his sermon, he said that it is with fear and trembling that he approaches the church's followers as a brother. So it was very mellow. It was a very mellow event.
I think one thing's clear, we will definitely be watching this new Pope closely and making sure that he stays on track. You know, it having so many changes. You know, him being the first ever American Pope. And I think even recently I saw a video. I think it was yesterday. Actually, it was while he was in the Bmobile,
Yes.
and he broke protocol when he stepped off to assist a woman, I believe it was an officer, on a horse who fell.
Oh, yeah.
And he completely, which I found it was nice. It was nice to see that.
And those were his intentions. He wasn't supposed to leave the Bmobile, but he said, if I stop, I need to help somebody. So, and that's the kind of, I would say, guy he is, separate from the Pope. He has highlighted concerns even with the war in Ukraine. And he's taught that sometimes these things can be very taboo for such an official to speak about, but he mistaken it upon himself to say, well, no, I want peace. I think it's a good idea for us to advocate for peace, which honestly is a big thing for for someone in his position. It shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah. So that was nice. I wish I wish him all the best in his new role.
It was fun to see all the Americans kind of come and
it's a very exciting time for Americans.
Yes.
For Americans. And of course his family as well, because as you saw, his brother is there from Florida, which, you know, I made a comment to Jada and I'm like, this is so strange, you know. He's a pope now. And
an American is a pope now.
Yeah.
That is beautiful, though, and we do wish him the most success during his term. All right. So
we actually have just a picture to show you. Lady Deborah Cleaver. She's a resident of Trinidad, but this picture was taken at the Chedi Dragon International Airport in Guyana. And it shows her remarkably long fingernails. If you can see it, that's the red glistening swirls extending from her fingers. I think that was very cool to see. So
I thought it was fruit by the foot when I first saw it. I thought she was holding
some sort
fruit,
of candy.
some sort of candy.
Right? So those fingernails are the result of 19 years of growth. Right? That is 19 years of growth. She said this has been a testament to her patience and distinctive personal style. I don't know. I cannot. I'm under pressure when I put on acrylic nails that are too long.
And the short ones, even the short ones. That's under pressure.
Yeah.
So to have it grow all
to
the
have
way
it like that,
out.
and then it's now swirly. I mean, I guess that's why she has it on one hand alone. But yeah, so I mean, her visit to the Guyanese airport made other travelers look in amusement. She was the center of attention, and she got a lot of her picture taken. You know, so that was nice. And she's from Trinidad.
She would be. I am a little concerned. I mean, I don't know what the hygiene would look like with that, because you'd have to go and clean the entire length of the nail, the swirl, this, that.
Yeah, that was one of my thoughts. I wondered, what is how the upkeep and hygiene of it? You know, just doing regular day-to-day things, even taking a shower. How is that happening? But she makes it work.
19 years.
19 years. And counting, so she's made it work. But another question would be, what is her diet like? Because I think diet has for it to grow that long and be so strong and not break.
Yes.
If my nail gets too long,
You'll start to see chips, and then eventually it'll just break off.
Chips. If I hit my hand, it chips. If it gets, the nail gets, I don't know, it gets soft.
It's drink milk, Naomi.
It's milk.
It's like the calcium in the milk.
It's something, but her nails look very sturdy. And the fact that it grew out so long for 19 years, she was very careful in not chipping her. Yeah.
That's discipline. Because then you can't cut it. That's kudos to her. Kudos to her.
For sure.
So that brings us to the end of our program. You guys know at any point in time you can get us on the Facebook, on our Instagram, or watch us on YouTube. Or you can WhatsApp us at the number you see on your screen, 682-9376, 682-9376. And you can engage with us at any point in time.
Yeah. So we're going to leave you with this. Either you run the day or the day runs you.
Yeah, you run the day or the day runs you.
So this is a quote by Jim Rohn. That quote was just like, it was quick, it was simple, it was just straight to the point. Don't let the day run you. You know, start your day right.
Take charge of your day.
Take charge of your day, and you run the show. You know. So stay safe, guys. Stay inspired. Stay informed, and we will see you back here again tomorrow morning, while Wednesday. Also, stay tuned for Talking Point with Sean Michael Small coming up on the hour at 8.
Bye-bye.
Be safe. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Her voice has mesmerized us for years.
And now, in a rare treat for music fans,
Shakuntala and Friends in concert, featuring Shakuntala Jangbahadur. Singing sensation Deval Chaikwal, brilliant musician Dr. Shivanan Maharaj, master flautist and saxophonist Narendra Maharaj, with music from Shiv Sangeet Orchestra, Shakuntala and Friends in concert.
Shakuntala.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Hi, I'm Claudette, radiographer at the radiology departments at the community hospital. We offer high-quality service with state-of-the-art equipment in X-ray, ultrasound, CT, and mammogram. Come, our friendly staff awaits you.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. as we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation. Contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
WESN.
Here's your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Haywood Christopher's tenure as Commissioner of Police ends in controversy. Diego Martin flood response underway. Aranguez farmers count flood losses. Minister promises action. And internationally, Biden reveals cancer diagnosis amid health questions. Now for the details. Former Commissioner of Police Earl Haywood Christopher's time at the helm of the TTPS was marked by record-breaking murders, low detection rates, and controversy. Despite efforts to reduce violent crime, 2024 became the bloodiest year in TNT's history, with 625 murders. Her suspension followed an investigation into the purchase of sniper rifles for the SSA. She was later cleared of wrongdoing. Still, a high court upheld her suspension, and on the final day of her contract, she was sent on vacation leave. Haywood Christopher, TNT's first female commissioner of police, served in the police for 43 years, but faced criticism over failed initiatives, media avoidance, and flawed promotion exercises. Cleanup operations continue in Diego Martin following heavy weekend rains that caused landslides, flooding, and fallen trees. The borough's disaster management unit, led by coordinator Kathy Christopher, reported 5 landslides, 6 fallen trees, and multiple flood incidents. Relief efforts included distributing tarpaulins, sandbags, and restoring power in affected areas. The corporation is working with national agencies and has encouraged residents to report damage via its hotline or social media. After severe flooding devastated farmlands in Aranguez, Agriculture Minister Ravi Ratiram says he will review the compensation system to better support farmers. He blamed the previous administration for failing to clear watercourses, calling the situation heartbreaking. Many farmers, some without formal leases, say they were denied
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. I mean, and Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
WESN.
That's the word that usually gets either lost or is misused or misunderstood when speaking about what your plans are. These are priorities, and then you have a list so long and there's no indication, well, in order to have a plan, to some extent, your list of priorities, especially the longer it goes, needs to have an indication of which is prioritized above what. Now, let's start small and work our way up. I saw a video, it was sent to me yesterday on social media, on WhatsApp, of the police officer who was driving the BMW who crashed his car and was killed. It's one of those situations where I understand there's probably going to be a section of the public that's going to look at that and they're going to be cynical about it. They're going to be cynical about how is it that a PC, a police constable, I believe is the rank given, how does he have a BMW? Well, it's possible. It is possible. Again, it all depends on what the individual prioritizes, right? As well as what his background is, what opportunities he has, how old of a car he's looking to buy, and to what extent he could get financing from a bank or any other similar institution. I know of a young fella that bought a brand new hybrid SUV. Now, to some extent, one might not think that his income would make that a wise purchase, but, you know, each individual will prioritize what they spend their money on, and depending on how he manages that expenditure, might end up being a smart investment for him. This police officer wanted a BMW. Cynics will wonder, how could he afford it? That's not really a question in my mind. The real issue is the fact that when the police comes on any platform, like our show, any other talk show, news show, the police has their own show on another network, and they want to speak about road safety, acts like this could potentially undermine that messaging. Now, to what extent was he driving recklessly? To what extent was it just the weather? I don't know. On one hand, I've never driven so fast when it was raining that I would lose control like that. On the other hand, technically I have lost control because of weather, just, you know, never to that severity. But it didn't necessarily I wasn't necessarily driving that fast to lose control. So I didn't see a video that showed, you know, how he was driving leading up to it. But we don't know. This is just one of those things where, regardless of the reasoning, I don't think we should hold the TTPS situation like this against them. At the end of the day, all police officers come from our society, and if we want to say anything about police officers, you know, doing the same thing that the normal people are doing, maybe that speaks to the fact that we are a little too fast and loose with the rules. We kind of treat certain rules like they're more like guidelines than laws. But who knows? He might have been driving at a reasonable speed and something happened and it ended up the way it did. I don't know. I just hope that this is not used in a way like a scapegoat or an example that misses the point. Just because the police did it doesn't mean that we could all do it. One police officer doing it doesn't give us license to say, but look, all your fella did it. Why you all on me for? You all can't even police yourselves. Yes, but this gentleman paid the ultimate consequence for doing it. And that's the whole point of the road safety exercise. The priority is to try to prevent you from having a serious accident where you or other people could be harmed. So one bad example should not be utilized to undermine what is otherwise a practical message with merit. And that's what, in this situation, should be the priority. But let's move on. This is all before we get into the daily review. Of course, there's the whole situation with flooding. We're now in the wet season. We've just had some heavy rains in certain parts of the country. I can't remember, but I feel as though last year we kind of got away a little bit from too much heavy rains, as opposed to years previous, before last year. Now, business chambers want to talk to the government about flooding, right? There's editorials about flooding. A lot of that's coming out now is a combination of all of the long-term work that was not done, the funding that was not available. Now the question is, we will find out eventually. We don't have indicators right now. It won't be fair to judge the whole situation for the response over the last weekend and yesterday and today. But it won't take long, depending on how the rainy season goes, for us to find out what is this government's priority, or rather, how do they prioritize flood mitigation? Because it didn't seem as though previous administrations gave flood mitigation as much of a priority as the people affected by it would have liked. Right? Business community, I think it's one business chamber is looking. This is the Penal Debate Chamber. They've called out things like stricter enforcement of laws relating to building codes as people are developing land without proper drainage. And this is something, look, I'm not saying that it should be scrapped because it's, at this point it's too big, but one could even argue when Movie Town was put down, was sufficient draining factored into that development there? What about all of the reclaimed land? Because right now you could say West Trinidad, Northwest Trinidad on the coast, that's part of the issue. Reclaim some land, put some big concrete development on it, and then all of a sudden, the properties that are inland of that development, all of a sudden they have issues with flooding. More severe than they used to. In some cases. Port of Spain is one example. So the question is, how are they going to prioritize it? Because it's going to take funds, but there are other things that needs funds. One of the things is with regards to several youth training, youth intervention programs. Civilian Conservation Corps, military-led academic training program, military-led youth program of apprenticeship and reorientation training. They were under the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. Now apparently it looks like they're going to go back to the Ministry, well, of Defense. And part of it here too is, as with many things, the prioritization in order to indicate how much money will be allocated to them for their budget. because it seems as though part of the problem coming down to the end was that critical shortage in basic supplies, repeated delays in program launches. Yes, there was bureaucratic red tape, which is basically the non-profit version of ease of doing business, right? But there were also logistical shortcomings, which I wonder to what extent that's budgetary shortcomings. Then there are other initiatives that people would like to see. One professor, the Dean of Faculty of Food and Agriculture, would like to see agri-tourism, agricultural-driven tourism. Now, as someone in tourism, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work in TNT, because we have two problems. One, our tourism sector is not geared for that. And to some extent, to go to such a niche market, you would probably need to do things like market your products to target that audience. Now, internationally, we are known for our bird species, so that kind of markets our bird watching niche for tourism. But what about agritourism? We're not known for agriculture. Yes, we're known for certain products. And dare I say, this is where, to some extent, the legacy of agriculture being mistreated will come back to haunt us. Because arguably, one of the things that could have easily been of significant value to tourists is if we did have some sugarcane fields and some cocoa fields. And of course, Moruga, scorpion pepper fields. But the sugarcane and the cocoa fields, those to some extent to say that we had a direct lineage. It would have been even better if it was unbroken. These were the products that were grown historically in TNT, and we still grow some of it today. Well, with cocoa, yes. Sugarcane, not so much, right? But the thing with cocoa and sugarcane, these are products where the novelty of just getting a piece of sugarcane and eating it on the spot, or a cocoa seed, which, you know, and having the pulp in the fruit, and watching, to some extent, some of the historical processes, not just modern fancy equipment. It's part of the history and the culture to some degree, and it was lost. And all of that could have been, yes, to some extent agritourism, also to some extent historical and cultural tourism. But agriculture and tourism are two areas that, think about the budget allocation for those two ministries. And if you can't remember what the tourism budget allocation was, yeah, I don't think they ever said it in the last couple of budgets. Agriculture gets some small, insignificant amount, if anything at all. They are, to some extent, the red-headed stepchildren of the economy, because everybody says diversification, but they're not even given a budget allocation significant enough of note. How are you going to show that they are actually a priority? The amount of money you put into it kind of indicates whether it is or not. Obviously, it's not going to have the same amount of money as education, health, and national security. But, and there are other situations, cultural, jobs/businesses. The Minister of Public Utilities made a statement that government is, well, this is a quote. Together with the Minister of Culture, we will give you the support that you have needed for some time. I'm your voice inside and outside of Parliament. I will be representing you in all your endeavors. I think this is as his status, perhaps as Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, and also as an MP. And that's fine, because now some of this will help with tourism, but some of this is just in general. Not only for tourism, cultural jobs. It's not just for foreigners, it's also for our local culture, entertainment, artistic space. So then this is another line item of we will promise to help. But again, to what extent is it part of a plan that's going to have proper priorities? Another house was burned down because the Princestown Fire Station is closed down. This is the narrative. To some extent, we could make the assumption that it's true. The fire service took 45 minutes to respond. The fire service needs to have money allocated to them. Where are they on the list of priorities, if you have it as a list? And this is not the full extent. Homeland Security is going to want more budget allocated to them. Trade and industry, economic development, they're going to want more money allocated to them. Education, to some extent, needs more money allocated to them. And then there's the whole situation, and we'll get to that maybe not today, later on in the week, with regards to public utilities. Because the former Minister of Public Utilities, he's concerned that the economic situation of TNTech, we ain't even reached WASA, based on money owed to the NGC for natural gas, received but not paid for. At some point, somebody's going to have to foot that bill, right? Will it be central government? Well, at the end of the day, the money has to come from somewhere. Does the NGC absorb the cost? It's still the government absorbing the cost at the end of the day. Now you're just kind of doing accounting tricks of where you put the expenditure or the loss on the books. So this is going to be the test of the current government. And dare I say that their priorities, look at one of the first things that they did and utilize absolute language for. They basically they promised certain concessions to the unions, and they gave them that. Everything else is we have to review it, we have to wait and see, but we promise we'll get it done. That's nice, but if you promise everything will get done, well, dare I say, we run the risk that almost nothing will fully get done or properly get done, because depending on availability of resources, if you try to just allocate a little bit across the board, and you don't necessarily go through the exercise of, okay, but what is critical that we have to do, you're going to end up doing exactly what the PNM did, which is accomplish only a little bit across the board, not actually fully realize anything, and then you get a situation where the farmers and the residents in certain areas could say, well, they didn't really deal with flood mitigation efforts holistically. They kind of just did a little thing here and a little thing there, and of course we still flooded next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and we flooded this year, and we'll flood next year again. And that's just one issue. With regards to education, we kind of do some patchwork on some schools here and there, but you don't have the money to fully do everything that needs to be done. So this school is in disrepair, and that school is in disrepair. If you don't have a list of priorities. And the thing about it is, it's easy for me to say, it's hard for any government to do, because how do you prioritize education over people's homes not being flooded, over fire service stations not being properly equipped and having long response times of the fire service, over the police having long response times and having low detection rates, over the Coast Guard not having sufficient equipment, although there's other issues with the Coast Guard, but let's go with that sufficient equipment to properly patrol our maritime borders. Over, you want to allocate housing. You want new houses, however many a week. How do you prioritize other things over that? What do you prioritize over that? And then, of course, there's the investment to ensure diversification, whether it's food security, tourism, export industries that are non-petrochemical. Which one do you prioritize? And this is the key that has been lost on many a politician, at least up until now. We don't know what the UNC is going to do. But it has been lost on them in the sense of, you're not there to make the obvious basic choices. Any Yahoo, right, from any corner of the country, whether educated or not, can make the most basic choices, can make the most obvious choices, can make the safe choices. The safe choices, well, I try to give them everything they want, but what if X4? Because you kind of gave everything halfway at best, or less than halfway at worst. And now when we've reached the point where, yes, you could try and fight and get more revenue, but the reality I fear is that our government expenditure is bloated. And without a willingness to, one, determine what are the priorities in order to drive development in an actual, practical, and significant enough way. Because if we just touch everything a little bit, we ain't really going to develop. But also, to what extent can we cut some of the excess? And it seems as though that last part is not necessarily a government priority. In everything that they've said, it is, we'll find the money, and we're not going to do anything to upset the apple cart. That's nice, but I fear that is living in Neverland. But then again, Trinidad is not a real place. The temptation is, let's not anger anybody. But the problem is, what happens when you are someone's friend and they're doing something wrong, but you don't want to anger them? You don't want to tell them what's the right thing to do. So you leave them to continue doing what they're doing wrong. Your friend is cheating on his wife. That's not my business. So you leave him to continue cheating on his wife. And then when he's discovered, or she's discovered, wife could be cheating on her husband, family blows up, all of a sudden their kids have a whole set of issues, right? Your friend now is depressed. Maybe he might do something stupid to himself because you didn't want to be the bad guy, to be straight with him, to tell him what he needed to hear, not what he wanted to hear. Politicians like to tell us what we want to hear. Not a lot of them will tell us what we need to hear. To some extent, the current administration has done a little bit of that. I fear it might not be enough, but we have to wait and see. This is not a clarion call for haters to say, yes, exactly, they're stupid, they're going to do wrong. No. This is a warning. Because there are some signs, not fully in one direction. So let's wait and see how this plays out. But the thing is, we need to say these things in advance. We don't want to entrap any government, whatever party it is. You know, we kind of just twiddle our thumbs and it's like, are they going to do right? Are they going to do wrong? And then the only time we speak up is when they do wrong. Because historically, our tolerance is an indicator of approval, of consent, because we didn't opt out of the situation. That's human psychology. When your friend is doing the wrong thing, he or she, and you don't tell them anything about it, but you're well aware of what's going on, man or woman cheating on the spouse, you know exactly what's going on. And when the cheated spouse finds out, you knew all this time and didn't say anything, of course they're going to be vexed with you. Because you allowed the situation to fester, because you gave it your silent approval. And we shouldn't do that as a population. We should be willing and able to communicate, listen, we need something more. Business community is saying we need something more about flood mitigation. And I would argue, to some extent, that should be given a priority, because one of the things that we don't understand about maintenance is, if you do it right, it potentially is going to be cheaper than dealing with the fallout. And perhaps one of the excesses that we've had to deal with far too often is having to compensate for things. And even if the government doesn't give the farmers money or give homeowners money, say they give homeowners and farmers nothing, and people will say, yes, they don't deserve anything. What you don't understand is value from the economy is disappearing. And that's not a good thing. And with regards to agricultural products, that's GDP shrinking right there. That's not what you want to see if you want to develop. When there's an emergency in America, when 2 teens go missing somewhere in the woods, they have multiple helicopters. They have, I don't know, dozens, if not hundreds of people on a search crew. How many rescue vehicles are sent out? Trucks, ambulances, planes even, foot patrols, dogs. They spare no expense. Because of that, yes, they could afford it, but it allows society to develop in a certain way that we don't, because we don't feel like society has our back in certain things. More on that after the break. Sean Michael Smollett, this is Talking Point in WESN Content Capsule. We'll be right back with our guests after this.
voice has mesmerized us for years.
And now, in a rare treat for music fans,
Shakuntala and Friends in concert, featuring Shakuntala Jang Bahadur. Singing sensation Deval Chaitlal, brilliant musician Dr. Shivanan Maharaj, master flautist and saxophonist Narendra Maharaj, with music from Shiv Sangeet Orchestra, Shakuntala and Friends in concert.
Shakuntala,
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios. But they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience. Give us a call at 235-5479 for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com. And we're back here on Talking Point on WESN Content Capital, and we're joined by two representatives from CAISO. First, she is a director of the advocacy organization, Dr. Angelique Nixon, and of course, we have one of the, let me just get his program and research officer for CAISO, Mr. Kellogg, and I'll just use that title for the introduction there. So welcome back to Talking Point. It's been a while, and happy to have you all here once again.
Happy to be here.
Yes, thank you.
Now, of course, you all just released last week, Thursday, the Wholeness and Justice Report for last year from January to December. Kellogg, you were one of the main presenters, one of the main authors of this report. The theme, the power of communities, I think to some extent it kind of came out in the discussions that was had with your presentation, and then some discussions I had with Dr. Nixon off air. So, my apologies. Power of communities, I think that's one of the things that we kind of underestimate, because with regards to parenting in general, there's lamentation that there's no longer the village, right? And the village comes to the fact that you get to know the people in the community, get to know the young people in your community as they grow up, and that's an extra support system for young people. But also, it's you get intimate knowledge of the person's character and personality. And I do wonder if to some extent, like in many things, we're seeing a bit of a consequence with regards to some of these situations you'll have, because about 40-something% of the people that came to CAISO for services last year, of your clients, I believe was in the age range of 18 to 25. So we're talking about younger people here. We might not realize that, okay, the village, 18 to 25, they're adults. Well, to some extent, yes, but they're coming out of childhood And to some degree, especially now in 2025, 18 to 25, you're not going to work for the bank and getting your own apartment and your own car just so. It's not how things are right now. To some extent, that's still young, and you're still getting, or hopefully getting, guidance and support by your family, by your community. And to some extent, it seems like in TNT, the concept of community on a whole is broken down, and then for LGBTQI plus people, that adds there's another dimension on top of it that makes it more complex and adds more problems or more obstacles for them. If you could.
Yeah, I think that this year's theme is very profound in the sense of power of communities, because it reminds us that communities aren't monolith, right? And so societies aren't monolith. And we have a responsibility as members of different communities to take into consideration the diversity and the distinct experiences of different members of our communities, and all with the primary goal of ensuring that they're able to exist and thrive within the community space. And so when we think about Trinidad as a community, as a society, as a state, the state does have the responsibility to ensure that all members of its community are able to, again, like live and exist and thrive in these spaces. And thankfully, we have constitutional rights and human rights as providing some sort of guidance towards the responsibility of the states, the duties that the state and other stakeholders have to different members of the community. It's just unfortunate that with the LGBTQI plus community, with people of sexual and gender diversity and expansiveness, that they aren't necessarily considered in the way and protected and guaranteed and enjoying these constitutional guarantees in the way that other social groups are. And I'm happy that you mentioned the age range in terms of with our clients who are our clients last year who are between the ages of 18 and 25. And you're right, like that is 18 to 25 in this day and age is not what 18 to 25 looked like in like 1960 something, right? And so there are additional layers. People in this group have additional layers of vulnerability as it relates to their age and the lack, or dare I say limited financial independence and economic independence that they have. And so when they are primarily dependent on, different units for support, primarily the family, we would imagine the family has a responsibility to their young ones as well. And so when we find that young LGBTQI plus people are being displaced by their family members or by their different support systems, and there isn't alternative avenues for social support, then it creates a gap and it leaves out a big portion of our population as a country, and it continues to perpetuate systems of injustice and violence and just instability. And so, which is why we thought it important to highlight this very important aspect of our work.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think people need to understand. Either of you all could chime in on this with regard to the fact that some people might think, oh, these issues are unique and very niche, and it's like, no. These issues stem from societal issues that then have an additional layer of either outright bigotry or it could be simple ignorance, but regardless, it then now causes each individual to feel more isolated, to feel as though, feel a lot more misunderstood or less understood, and to some extent, it might not seem as though it's physically blocking them from certain things, but effectively, certain things in society might be closed off, not because anyone is outright saying no, but just the attitude now either causes the service provider, whatever state service, whether education, jobs, what have you, to respond a certain way that makes the environment hostile, or they might just not provide good enough service to the citizen who, for whatever reason, their sexual orientation should have nothing, no bearing on do I get a job? Do I get proper health care? Or whatever other service is provided. And these problems, they're similar to the problems that a lot of people in society are facing. And dare I say, if more Trinbagonians kind of understood that, they would realize, oh, we're going through some of the same things, but we should admit that things are a little bit harsher out there for people who are LGBTQI+, as opposed to the rest of us.
Well, yes, definitely. I think that, but it's also a question of class and access to resources. So when we analyze any social problem in any society, but especially in ours as a post-colonial society, and in our region where we know that we are still very much struggling with colonial structures. Yes, we have independence. Yes, things have shifted, but many of the social structures and indeed our laws and social systems and institutions are still very much and deeply colonial, and they have structural inequalities already embedded. And so what we found in the program over the last 4 years, and certainly the case for this 4th year of service, that many of our clients are working class, and our clients who are working class, as well as managing other kinds of vulnerabilities, be it migration status, be it ability or disability, be it geographic location, we know that their experience of trying to access, whether it's state services or basic needs, securing shelter, securing employment, for people with diverse genders and sexualities, it is going to be doubly, triply difficult. So, those are the kinds of things that we have drawn a lot of attention to in this report and the analysis that we offer of what LGBTQI+ people are experiencing. And we also offer an understanding of those intersecting issues so that we can share some insights and share more data and information with the public, but also with our government and ministries who don't collect data about gender and sexual diversity. And so we're able to say, actually, here are the issues. And most importantly, wholeness and justice, our program and our service providers, our lawyer and our therapists, and our research and program admin, we are able to help folks navigate social services, legal services, because although there are lots of challenges in the legal landscape and the social landscape, homophobia, transphobia, biphobia are very real and ever present. What we are able to do is help navigate our clients through these systems that can be very alienating. And we can also help folks to advocate for their own rights, because as Kellogg said, we have rights, we have constitutional rights. And so yes, there are things that are absolutely preventing LGBTQI+ folks and our communities from having full access to rights and freedoms. There are ways that we can navigate it. And so we have to do what we often call some legal gymnastics. We have to, press and push and demand better of the services that ought to be available for all.
And if I may.
Yeah.
To your point, Sean, as well, we know that there is a fundamental understanding about discrimination and why discrimination is not a good thing, all right? Especially as Angelique just mentioned, in a post-colonial society. And so we see that our state has made international and constitutional commitments to non-discrimination, and that there is an understanding of the consequences of discrimination. And so, which would have necessitated us having or enacting an Equal Opportunity Act. The unfortunate thing, though, is that although the act, points to non-discrimination, encourages non-discrimination, and provides mechanisms for redress in the event that discrimination does happen, it's not expansive in a way that includes LGBTQI+ people and many other groups, right? And so it can't be it can't be that we are acknowledging that discrimination is bad only for some people, and then for others, it's okay if they get left out. It's okay if they are not able to access whatever goods and services as with other social groups without, discrimination. And which is what informs the work that we do, right? I think it's important for us to be reminded that as a movement, as an organization, as a program, what we are asking for, or what we are demanding rather, is that the rights of LGBTQI plus people in Trinidad and Tobago are respected and affirmed and fulfilled as with other social groups in the country. So it's not that we're saying, we need more rights, or we're trying to do this or do that, but it's that, no, there is an understanding that we all live in a society and ought to be equal citizens. And so we're just calling for LGBTQI plus people to be acknowledged and affirmed as equal citizens in Trinidad and Tobago, and enjoy the same rights and benefits and guarantees that the state understands is necessary for a functioning society.
Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people, they might be quick to jump to conclusions, because we import a lot of stuff from abroad and politics from abroad. And a lot of these things are very political abroad. But here in TNT, I would argue, it's not political and it's underserved. We're not having the same discussions that they're going to have in North America. They have certain basic laws already in place. A lot of the other things that they're talking about is for specific issues that they have over there. We don't necessarily have that over here. A lot of people might want to say, you see what they do in North America? They want that down here. No. What y'all are asking for are some very basic things, I would argue, that seems somewhat self-evident. Regardless of what your beliefs are, anti-discrimination protections should not be that difficult. My fear is that we've already seen the Equal Opportunity Commission seemingly, because I haven't seen a good enough explanation, discriminate against someone that was appointed to the commission. So I feel like there's so many cultural hurdles now, and a lot of your clients and a lot of the issues that the LGBTQI plus population or community in TNT faces is being caught up now in a lot of lack of political will, or as I now like to start saying, societal will. Do you see what is, I know that they have instances where, healthcare, public health, employers and the like, your clients would have faced discrimination, family members, and then that goes into domestic violence situations, would have faced discrimination. But wider society, what is the tenor right now, do you think, whether it's from religious bodies or political entities or just the wider society of a whole? Because I think we kind of take it for granted. Maybe a lot of people in certain upper economic brackets, they might know a gay person or a trans person that's doing well and everything seems fine, and their employers treating them well and they have friends and they're integrated in the community and they have support, but that doesn't speak to everybody. And I think a lot of us take it for granted of what's going on the ground, like in many other situations. I don't know if you could give us maybe a good framework for how our society is functioning on these issues. It's a big question. I know. I'm sorry. It's a big, yeah.
Yeah, it is a big question. Well, I think I want to say that it's important for us to understand the ways that homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia, queerphobias are being imported, right, from the global north. I think that we are in a particular moment of a lot of anti-rights. And this is backlash. This is a backlash against progress. This is backlash against racial justice movements, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQI plus movements, disability justice, climate justice. We're seeing this regression very scarily, globally. And so just to say that that's the context in which we're in. So it is easy to point to other places and also not see the ways that those places are impacting the way we understand rights. But at the same time, we have to push back against that, because those systems would also deny everyone in our space rights on the basis of all of our intersecting and complex and beautiful diversity, of which LGBTQI plus people are one part, right? And so that being said, I think issues of class in our country and certainly in our region still remain difficult to talk about, right? And so it is the case that you might know somebody who is of the community who's doing well, and then you think because they're middle or upper class that's fine, folks are fine. And you don't think about the intersection of someone who is poor and working class and who's also of sexual and gender diversity, who's also having, other kinds of issues. And so, of course, we know that that is going to compound vulnerability. It's going to make it more difficult. If it's already difficult for a trans person to get a job, it will certainly even be more difficult for a working class trans person to get a job. Or if they've been thrown out by their family, if the family has rejected this person because of their gender identity or because of their sexual orientation, then it's going to be much harder. You don't have a social system and a family system to support you. Or if you're reliant upon the family member who is enacting harm or abuse on you, or threatening you to, not be queer or not be trans, then it can take a toll on your psychological or your mental well-being. And then, that leads to all kinds of other issues. And so I know I'll let Kellogg talk more about the specifics, but in 2024, we saw a lot of examples of this where folks experience, in the larger context of discrimination, structural discrimination, then experiencing family violence, and then being literally being stuck in situations because they cannot leave, they cannot report the violence because they are dependent upon that person. Now, we know this to be true for straight women in situations of domestic and intimate partner violence. But we also know this to be true with all forms of family violence, that family violence is a complex situation for us because of kinship, because of family. And of course, we want our families and we love our families, and those things can be really complicated. So I do think that when we talk about these issues, for any vulnerable group, we need to do that analysis. We can't just think of people as one thing. And I think with LGBTQI+ issues, we focus only on that. And I think one of the things in this report and our other ones, but especially the analysis I think we've offered last year in 2023 and in 2024, we've been able to pull out these examples to offer that evidence, to offer the data and analysis we need to really explain what is happening in our communities. And I'll pass to Kellogg.
Thank you for that, Angelique. And yeah, agreed with everything Angelique says. But just like pointing towards the structural level, right? We do know and we understand that different like familial relationships, intimate partner relationships can be complicated. I want to dare us to imagine a world where these kinds of conflict do not happen within these spaces. But in our current reality as a global society, because this is not an issue that's isolated to Trinidad and Tobago alone, these things happen, right? These types of conflicts and like violence rooted in different factors take place. And what is needed to address these conflicts and violence is a robust and like concrete mechanism for people to be able to seek protection and also redress. And so what complicates the experiences of LGBTQI+ people in Trinidad and Tobago, for instance, is when they are experiencing these things in these very complicated units, but also have a fundamental distrust for state systems for redress and protection. And even in the event that, even when they are, the distrust being when there are avenues for redress available, but we also understand that for a lot of situations and experiences that community members have, there aren't any systems for mechanism or redress seeking. And so it is necessary, I'm saying all that to say that it is necessary for state intervention in that way to ensure that, as people experience these situations or go through these very like violent circumstances, that at least they're able to find solace in like structural systems for protection and for redress. And also pointing to the fact that, as Angelique would have mentioned in some like instances of like family violence and whatever, right? We have evidence, or we have examples rather, of clients last year, and it's documented in the report. So just plugging that and encouraging folks to to read the insights report. It's available on our website, kaisotc.org. But anyway, we have an example of where a client would have been experiencing family violence in the home. And this isn't the first time that they would have been experiencing like this level of family violence, as evidenced by a previous protection order granted by the court. And so they would have come to the program, you know, trying to seek support through that. And through the process, they eventually withdrew this application for a protection order. And so it's noted in the report that we do recognize, you know, mediation as like an important part of like conflict resolution, important aspects of conflict resolution. So we're not even making the argument for a punitive system or for punitive measures to kind of isolate or alienate units, these fundamental units, but we're asking for systems that are concrete and that are survivor-centered and that provide the necessary interventions, the necessary holistic interventions for there to be progress and for, you know, forward movement to happen as it relates to these experiences and these units.
And as I said before, I feel as though in TNT we're missing basic things. Right? We're not, and also, but luckily at least it hasn't turned into like a political circus with regards to these issues where the politicians are using it as cannon fodder one way or the other, right? And maybe that's the silver lining, because your report has a lot of practical information. It's not just some kind of slogan argument on one side and then another slogan on the other side. You all are looking at people's real lives and what they're going through. One of the things though, as I said before, I think there's, as a lot of people would assume, there's a lack of political will. You all pointed out, or Angelique, you pointed out with me yesterday, that legislation or any attempts to make any headway doesn't seem to be forthcoming. And I would go so far as to say a lack of societal will. We have a conservative culture in a lot of ways. In some ways, we're progressive, but I find TNT has a weird mix of conservatism and progressivism, where sometimes it seems like we conveniently jump from one to the next when it suits us. What has the impact of the culture? Has our culture kind of caught up to the reality of, look, at the end of the day, these are still our sons and daughters of our soil, and to what extent are we going to tolerate, maybe if we can't see it, you know, we don't pay it any mind, but to what extent as a culture are we going to tolerate this sort of discrimination? Because at the end of the day, when you come down to the basic tenets of it, discrimination, as you all said before, this is something that's bad, regardless of what you think of the situation or not. Harmful behavior is still harmful behavior.
Exactly. And in fact, I mean, I think that the last poll done around social attitudes, there's two different polls that we could look at in the last 10 years that indicate the majority of people in Trinidad and Tobago do not think that violence against anyone for whatever difference or vulnerability is okay. And so we know that. We know that I think as a society, we don't. We have an issue with discrimination. We don't want discrimination to happen. Now, that being said, we also have issues of violence that we still are managing and dealing with. Gender-based violence is still an issue. Family violence is an issue across the board, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity and or class, right? Across groups. So we know that there's a lot, and we can go into, you know, that violence is connected, and certainly I think that we have not managed or dealt with many things in terms of our past and the legacies of colonialism. And we have to address those things. I think those have to be a part of a conversation about violence and about how we treat each other generally. Now, that being said, I think culturally, I think we do have a lot of acceptance of difference. We have acceptance of so many of our differences across religion, across race and ethnicity, across spiritualities. And so I think we need to remember that when we have conversations about sex and gender diversity. And I do think that we've had some backlash against progress, as I've said before, culturally. But what I want to switch a little bit and talk about the political landscape, because there is, as Kellogg already pointed out, and as we've pointed out in our work for a number of years, there is a lack of political will and courage, and there are legislative and policy changes that can be made absolutely tomorrow by the government, that the government needs to be courageous, and the government needs to follow its and to abide by its own mandates to protect all and provide justice and equal access to protection for all. And, you know, the Court of Appeal has just said in the, you know, recriminalization that that is not about discrimination. They acknowledge that all the justices acknowledge that it is, in fact, that sexual offenses acts are, in fact, discriminatory. And they've sent it back to the government to say the government has to make the changes around the savings law. And that's the government's job, to make and create and change laws. And the savings law issue is a colonial one, and we must decolonize our legal systems. Another area I'm wearing, the Amend the Equal Opportunity Act, add all three. This is a campaign that CAISO has had for many, many years, over a decade, where we've been calling. This law can be changed. The Equal Opportunity Act can be amended by an act of parliament, by the government, tomorrow. It is not saved law. So this is a place where we have said many, many times that this is a place of, if our political leaders want to protect and ensure protection of all, this is a place to do it. And that's a place that can be done without the savings law paradox or conundrum. So I want to put that out there, because there's both things that we have to be working on social and cultural landscapes, you know, and this is something that CAISO has been doing, and the Holistic Justice Program has been leading, producing public education, providing spaces for us for learning from each other, and that is a part of the work. But the other part of the work is the policy and legislative changes that we have to demand of the government to do, and it is their job to do so. We cannot wait for the majority to decide to protect a minority. There is no situation in which that has ever worked across the world when demanding human rights and protection. We know this. We know this in our own situation, in our own landscape of having to fight for rights and freedoms based on race and class and religion and ethnicity and so on. And so we call on the government to do the same for LGBTQI+ people.
Well,
yeah, I just
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to reinforce everything Angelique has said, and underlay that with, you know, without like a sense of like indictment on the people and the culture of Trinidad and Tobago, because as Angelique had mentioned earlier, we have a very diverse and like beautiful culture that that understands what it means to embrace difference. Attention really just needs to be paid to the deeply rooted impact and consequence of like a colonial history and what that does to us as a people and as and to our national psyche, so to speak. And so what is necessary to guide because we have the ingredients, right? But what is necessary to guide this process towards social transformation or like openness, especially as it relates to sexual and gender diversity, is, you know, the need for the tools. And so that's something that we prioritize as a program as well. As Angelique mentioned, in terms of in the public education and knowledge production work that we do, which again, I want to invite people to check out on our website and our resources page, shameless plug. But also beyond that, to the kind of capacity building sessions that we regularly have every year for different types of service providers, right? And even for community, because within the community, there are ways that there's need for learning around different things beyond rights awareness, but also in terms of like self-advocacy and like affirmation of one's like dignity and all those other things. And so as a program, it's something that we continue to commit to and we continue to be available to as well, because we don't want to like shame anybody for not knowing. And so we invite people to come with openness and to, you know, ask questions where they have questions, and we as a movement and as a program want to commit to continue supporting the active learning of our society so that we move towards cultural and social transformation in a way that has regard for you know, the values of our society around like diversity and difference.
Yeah, that's one thing that I want to highlight before I go to the next question is the fact that one of the things when we lost the village is that the various neighborhoods, communities, what have you, all of a sudden you don't know each other on an individual level. And I feel as though a lot of bigotry starts with ignorance. Because once you know someone personally, all of a sudden the preconceived notions of what something is and how bad it could be and why it shouldn't be and all of that, now you have to kind of deconflict that with, but I know this person, and I know they're a good person, and I know that I like this person. So how could I hate them? And then by doing that, all of a sudden now, things that you might hear from whatever source, now it has to be challenged, preconceived notions. Now you have to actually think it through. You can't just go with the flow. You can't just go with whatever you think the consensus is. And then it encourages people to do what you just said. Now you have to ask questions. Sometimes it's hard questions of yourself. Sometimes you have to ask questions to learn more from the individual, you know, who's going through the experience, and now you have a motivation to say, all right, I need to understand, because it's not as clear-cut and as simple as some people might want to make it out to be. And with that said, we do actually have a social media comment from someone from the public, and which is, I think, pertinent to this. How can the public, the everyday man, help with intervention? And I think that's one of the interesting things. Of course, yes, to some extent, government needs to do what government needs to do. Even the courts, and as much as I don't necessarily like the implication of what it means, but we kind of have to wait on government. The courts can't give us a shortcut. That would be the proper, more concrete way, in my opinion. But for the everyday man, who obviously is not in parliament, you know, to some extent, they might want to know, all right, what can I do to help? What is it something that I should know? Or what tool could I have that could make a difference?
I think education is key, and sharing information with others, and you know, spreading that message of inclusion and acceptance, right? Think about your family, right? We all have, I mean, you know, gender and sexual diversity has long been a part of all of our communities across African, Asian, across all of our ancestors. So when we talk about decolonizing, we're also talking about, you know, learning about the fact that gender and sexual diversity has long been a part of all human civilization, and certainly across our ancestors who ended up here. We need to also embrace the fact that this is not some foreign thing, right? I think that's a really important message of folks to continue sharing. And then let's learn. Let's do that learning together. We've created, as Kellogg pointed out, and it's available on our website for free downloads. It's called Educate to Empower. It's a guide for parents and guardians of LGBTQI plus youth and family members. So that could be a resource for you to read and engage and learn about gender and sexual diversity. We also talk a lot about all of the different ways, different connections that help us to understand these experiences. And then we also have a guide for young people, for LGBTQI plus youth, so our Rise Up and Rise Together education guides, the resource guides, they are there for you. You can download it, share it. And we also have lots of information that we share across our social media channels. We invite you to follow us, comment, share, ask questions. We have a number of, as Kellogg pointed out, we have webinars, we have different spaces for the public to come and engage with us. So I really want to encourage you to follow our pages. And then finally, I'll say we have a really powerful campaign we just put out called Inclusive Futures, which is also sharing and learning about LGBTQI plus people, experiences, about gender and sexual diversity. And so we have these great videos across our YouTube channel, and they're shared across Instagram and Facebook. Please go and check it out, watch, follow, share your comments, ask us questions. We're here to support and help. And then, you know, I will say that just having conversations in your family, having conversations with friends, that is how we create change. It's how we, you know, raise our consciousness together, and it is how we can shift those places where we need transformation and where we need more understanding. we really appreciate that question. Thank you.
Well, there's a follow-up, which I myself was wondering. It's very direct. Should the public lobby? Is that something the group is calling for? And I think that's a bit more complicated because, you know, just organizing something like that is not so simple in TNT, because as a society, I feel like we've kind of lost that will to lobby in a way for a lot of different issues. Is there a need for that? Because to some extent, I know that, you know, to get the entire society to come around is not going to be an easy task. But if there's enough people voicing this, that could be a great incentive for the government to take the issues more seriously. Because one of the big issues with any government, this government, the previous government, the government before that, is there's a lot of things that they just kind of ignore. Right? They don't have time to deal. They feel they don't have time to deal. But the problem is, in a lot of instances like this, you have real people suffering real consequences while it's left hanging up in the air. I don't know, Kellogg, if you want to answer that, or Angelique.
Yeah, I think that there is definitely need for a collective lobbying. And so which is, or it informs and is informed by our policy agenda week. Very soon we will be putting out a policy agenda which includes like calls for different aspects of for state intervention and also stakeholder intervention. And on that note, I do want to invite people to like engage with the policy agenda week. And again, like Angelique mentioned, ask questions, find out what can be done as it relates to the particular priority areas and action points. Yeah, I think that's yeah.
And I do think that there are, you can join a campaign, right? Our Add All 3 campaign, we invite organizations to join us, but if individuals want to, I think as we roll out specific asks, it's great to get the support. One of the things that we are putting out this week and next week, we've called for civil society organizations and our CSO partners across human rights and women's rights organizations to join us in solidarity around Ida Hobbit and the kinds of changes that we're calling for. The government in particular around speaking out against the issue, or calling on the government to make the changes needed especially around the Sexual Offenses Act. So that's another area, calling and having solidarity across civil society, across different groups and organizations, community groups. So we welcome that. And we're going to be putting out those statements this week. So if folks want to, join and support us, we are very happy. And we encourage you to, again, go to our website, KaisoTT.org, and you can send us a message, you can send us an email, you can follow our work, and we're happy to be in touch with you and happy to support the process.
Yeah, and I actually would like to just say something in support of that, because, when people hear policy agenda, they're going to make a lot of assumptions. But I think one of the things that we need to understand is your work is based off of practical data, not just some foreign catchphrase or whatever. Some people like to import the issues from abroad. We're not talking about what's being debated in Florida or New York, and we're just trying to apply it here. You all have actual practical data of what's going on in Trinidad and Tobago. And at the very least, go and read and try and understand what it is you all are asking for with that in mind, not with the, oh, well, this is just something you see in North America and these people are, no. Because the report is quite detailed, and it shows these are some of the things that our citizens are going through, and I guess at the end of the day, that's something that people need to kind of understand. And with regards to support, I would just say, to some extent, just show up to events. When they're public events, just show up. I mean, basically, that's what happened with the elections. Part of it is just to show up, to show that the amount of people who are willing to hear what's being said. You don't even have to necessarily support to show up, just have to be willing to hear. Because I do believe for the current government, a lot of the support they got started off as people who were open to listen, find out what's going on. Has there been change? Open to maybe support if they weren't going to support in the past. And to some, that's the first step. And then the last thing I want to say is, for those who don't have friends and family, I think it's safe to say most everybody should know somebody who's LGBTQI+. And at the very least, you could try to get to know them more and try to get to know what they're going through so that you will have a better understanding and not just assume that's so-and-so from so-and-so and just leave them alone and I don't want to. Well, why? If you don't know what's going on, reach out and have a discussion. I don't know if there's anything that you all would like to add, Angelique or Kellogg, to wrap things up as we're starting to run out of time.
Go ahead, Angelique.
I just want to encourage folks to go and visit the CAISO website, CAISOTT.org. Go under resources. You will find our Ida Hobbit statement, and you will find our insights report for 2024. And you can find lots of ways to join and build and share our work. Really want to encourage you to do that. And then finally, if you know anyone who needs support, who's experienced a violation, please contact our Wholeness and Justice program. All of our info is on our website. And you can also email us at wholenessandjustice@CAISOTT.org. Over to you, Kellogg.
Thank you, Angelique. All those things. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of reaffirm that, you know, what we as a movement and as an organization, as a people are doing or are aiming to do is to ensure that, you know, everyone in Trinidad and Tobago is able to enjoy all their rights and as the Constitution provides, right? And so we're thinking of, like you said, Sean, you're saying like basic needs. And I want to expand this view of basic needs to include like our basic constitutional rights, right? So rights to equal protection of the law, rights to access justice, rights to life, liberty, security, all of these things. It makes for a productive society where everyone is able to participate as equal citizens in the cultural, political, social, economic livelihood of the nation. So that's our goal. And also to kind of remind folks that this work, you know, is underlaid by like empathy and just the deep understanding that discrimination is just not something that people should experience. And so we, through our insights reports, we are calling to focus the experiences of our clients as evidence of, you know, where these gaps are. And we are committed to, you know, developing interventions that are culturally relevant, and even in like our priority areas and like action items in our policy agenda, all of these things are culturally relevant. It's things that matter to us as a society, and it's things that take into consideration the, you know, deep trauma associated with our colonial history and trying to undo all of those things as it relates to sexual and gender diversity, but also just as it relates to difference and diversity and, you know, living together in a society where, you know, everyone's rights and freedoms are affirmed and, you know, tended to by the state.
I mean, life is already so hard. We should not be making it harder for some. I think, if anything, just kind of use that as a starting point, folks. I would like to thank our two representatives of CAISO for joining me to have this discussion. It's probably not necessarily easy to come out in the public at times and to bring such an issue that, you know, I don't know how controversial or how much, you know, emotions are involved, because there are some people who have strong emotions about things like this, but at any day, getting more information and more outreach and more communication is I think one of the only true ways to try to move forward and deal with all of these lackings and to get us to a more equal place. Equality at the end of the day is ultimately the goal. So thanks for joining and having the conversation once again.
Thank you for having us, Sean.
Thank you so much, Sean. Take care.
And hopefully some of that legislative stuff works out. I will be looking out for that, but there's so many things. Hopefully we could encourage the government to be a bit more aggressive. Folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines. This is Talking About WESN. We'll be right back after this.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Her voice has mesmerized us for years.
And now, in a rare treat for music fans,
Shakuntala and Friends in concert, featuring Shakuntala Jangbahadur. Singing sensation Deval Chaitlal, brilliant musician Dr. Shivanan Maharaj, master flautist and saxophonist Narendra Maharaj, with music from Shiv Sangeet Orchestra, Shakuntala and Friends in concert.
Shakuntala, Tala.
And we're back on Talk About WSND Content Capital. Now we open the phone lines. You can call in and have your say. You don't necessarily have to speak on anything I spoke about. There are, of course, other issues, but I think it's important that we try to figure out how to highlight, give some time to all the issues. Hopefully, as some of them are fixed, then if we fix them, we don't have to necessarily spend time talking about solutions because we already would have solutions. We could move on to the problems. That's one of the problems, issues, I'm being a little bit redundant or repetitive with my words, that we have in TNT. We can't actually solve any one thing, so we keep having this long laundry list of scenarios, of issues that are festering that we just don't seem to be able to solve. And in the case of what we were speaking about on the interview today, I'll just have another thing to reiterate. What can be done to the least of us, and least in this case is with regards to population size. The LGBTQI plus community is not very large. It's usually recognized as a very small minority. What can be done to a very small minority can eventually be done to the rest of us. It's only a matter of time. That is one of the unfortunate psychological realities of any society. We have Digger Martin on the line. Good morning, caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Sean. I want to shift, and I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right.
I know you have your topics that you like to touch on, so.
Right. It is time to choose independent senators.
Yes.
We have an opportunity for our president to choose good people. I'm going to put good in quotes. Truly independent. I am not looking forward for people who want to spew, I'm using the word spew, the gospel of the PNM. That term has been associated with our president. I'm going to give you some evidence where that has happened in the past. You remember Naikwan?
Yes.
You remember an independent senator, not a big man, a small man, ended up as vice president of that corporation. eventually getting, I think, from a suit, a 20 million of taxpayers,
yes,
possibly taxpayers' money. That gentleman, when he was an independent senator, had nothing bad to say about Petrotrin because he knew where he was going. I mean to say, it is clear. So I am looking, there are a couple of others who have sat on the bench there, who have always voted and always supported the gospel of the PNM. So I'm looking for a new dispensation to move the country forward. My other point, I'm seeing that in the public domain, the overrun at the zoo, the new multi-story swimming pool zoo that they are building. And I want to, overcost run, and I want to juxtapose that with a term, hyenas in an African jungle, and further latched on that nexus to all the unfinished schools. That is where we priority. We spent a lot of money trying to upgrade the zoo, but we leave a lot of the schools unfinished. Tell us if we're really serious of moving this country forward. I'm going to have a nice morning.
Thank you, caller. I think, and you know, that's an interesting point with regards to priorities because people would like to upgrade the zoo. There's nothing wrong with that. But the harsh reality, and this is where we don't necessarily have enough political will to say that politicians will be able to say things like this and commit to it. Was the zoo a priority as opposed to other things? I think that's a very real conversation to have. It's one of the reasons why I had issue with the airport, right? Now it's been launched. Are we going to get 3 million tourists coming to Tobago this year? Next year? Probably not. So to what extent are we going to get a proper return on the investment of 800 million TT dollars? And it might be more. It's all depending on the accounting, right? We've already seen different accounting tricks used at different times. That's essentially what the audit, well, to some extent, what the Auditor General may have been taking issue with regards to accounting, an accounting error. So we could have maybe upgraded the existing airport and it might have been fine. Maybe not, right? Did we need such a big new terminal? We've reached a point where it's here, so we have to make use of it. We can't knock it down and get any money back. But it goes to show what are the priorities, because then now the idea would be your priorities will show your plan, and your priorities are based on what you think are critical needs in order to help move us forward. And while having a nicer zoo would be a nice thing to educate our citizens and to expose them to various animals, etc., etc., one, we already have an ethical debate about having certain animals in a Caribbean zoo, right? This is not their natural habitat, etc., etc. Are we increasing the size of the lion enclosure so that they would have more space to roam? Things like that. Are we improving the conditions of the various animal exhibits? But, okay, we're doing things like having a theater and shops and blah, 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 blah. That sounds like the zoo wants to make money. All right, did the zoo have a budgetary hole? And again, was this really the best way forward to help develop society when we have shortages of, working fire stations, working fire trucks, working schools, body cameras for the police, ships for the Coast Guard, and students, parents had to buy toilet paper for public schools, etc., 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 or copy paper for the printers. I mean, you could go on, right? And then, of course, there's the flooding. So that's an interesting point, because I do believe, with regards to one editorial over flooding, the comment they made was politicians somehow seem to find money for their pet projects, like the airport. But can they find money to keep the roads relatively paved? Because potholes not just damage your cars, they could be a safety hazard. Or keep the drainage infrastructure properly functioning, whether it's canals, whether it's pumps, etc., etc. Are we doing this? Do we find the money for this? Sometimes it seems that the answer to that is No. What about the various programs that augment our national security apparatus, right? And then, of course, there's some low-hanging fruit. Some of our problems are legislative, not just with the LGBTQI problem. Some of our national security problems are legislative. One of the things I find that's very interesting is a lot of the issues that CAISO finds that community to be involved with are part of a wider societal issue. And one of the things that I'm afraid of is they're going to get kind of lost in the wake of it all. But the harsh truth is that to some extent they're suffering more than some of the rest of us. I don't want to say all of the rest of us, but some of the rest of us. Now, with regards to, I believe it's Mr. Small, right? Hence your reference, hence your pun. No relation. I do want to caution you. It might be his honest opinion on Petrosyan when he speaks on the energy sector, when he speaks on Petrosyan, based on whatever his experience was. It might be his honest opinion based on whatever his experience was, based on his perception. So I don't necessarily want to use him as an example of senators not being independent. Rather, I think with the last crop of independent senators, or maybe I should say the crop of independent senators during the tenure of Paula Mae Weeks, haven't necessarily heard so much from this crop of independent senators, or not as much. It's not that I know that they were biased, or I think that they were biased, but some of the things that they said ran the risk of implying they were biased. It brought up the suspicion that they weren't necessarily being fully independent. And part of it could just be, look, that's how they saw it. And maybe it should be said that if you're an independent senator and you want to take a stance for or against the government, so it would be, so in that case it potentially is for the government's position or for the opposition position, perhaps you need to put more effort in order to display that my opinion as an independent senator is independent. I just happen to come to the same conclusion as this side or that side. Of course, if you have a third perspective that's wholly independent, that's different. But if your perspective eventually leads you to the same conclusion as the opposition party or the government majority party of either bench, then to some extent, because this goes back into why perceived conflict of interest, perception is a hell of a thing. So perceived independence or perceived bias similarly is a hell of a thing. And effort should be had with regards to communicating your points to kind of explain why did you reach to the situation that you reached. And if you just kind of go just under the surface, like a lot of politicians want to do, right? Sometimes, yes, there's utility in that you oversimplify the language so that people find it easier to understand. But usually when you oversimplify a complicated issue, things go wrong. So with regards to politicians, with regards to the independent bench, I think what you need is not just people who are independent. That's the baseline, right? That's the basic. That's hopefully what we're going to get. But also, if they are willing to act and speak independently and have the ability to communicate their intentions and to communicate reasoning so that will ensure everybody is secure that they're independent. Because if an independent senator, yes, it's like a math question and an exam for those about my generation and some older and some younger. You have a math question. You do it in your head. You give the answer. What the teacher says. Where's he working? Right? How many parents, the teacher basically, you had to deal with a child who's lazy. Where's he working? I remember in Form 1, I kind of reasoned out the answer. I didn't know what the formula was. So I had no working. And I had to just accept that I ain't going to get full marks. When an independent senator comes and basically, they're not going to say it like this, but based on how they present the information, it essentially sounds like, yeah, well, I agree with the government or the opposition said, so just go with that. Where's your working? Where's your reasoning behind that? That got you there. That hopefully is not based on government reasoning or opposition reasoning or any other politician's reasoning. Where's your independent assessment of the facts? It could be the same facts because information is information. But where's your independent assessment of the facts? Your acknowledgement that it could be in line or parallel to another faction's conclusion, and an explanation as to why, as an independent senator, you would still agree. What's the basis of justification for that? Or if you disagree, same thing. To some extent, that level of detail in communication is lost on a lot of stakeholders, on a lot of politicians. And it comes back to bite them because there is, and I'm kind of utilizing a concept in a different way than its original intention, but there's the bigotry of low expectations. We don't expect much of you. We think you're incapable. We think you're too stupid, too illiterate, too ignorant, so we need to dumb it down so you would understand. But the sad reality is when you dumb things down and oversimplify it, it allows things to go off the rails too easily. And while I get it, society as a whole, collectives of people are not going to be as smart as the smartest individuals. There's going to be a lot of inertia and a lot of difficulty to communicate to a wide number of people because the most effective way to communicate differs from person to person. So it's a challenge the more people you're trying to communicate with at the same time. But the flip side is, and that's why you dumb it down, you oversimplify it so it has mass appeal. But mass appeal, pop music has mass appeal. Doesn't make it the best music. Commercially successful movies don't necessarily make them the movies with the greatest artistic value. Do not necessarily make it movies with the best message. Doesn't necessarily make it the movies of the highest quality. They have a lot of movies that made $1 billion that were crap because of their position in the market, the timing window of their release, their connection to a better movie in the same IP, etc., etc. Or just audience expectations, oh, this company is always good, so we'll go and watch it, and then realize, oh no, they slipped up. Mass appeal, to some extent, based on basic catchphrases and slogans and simplified emotional arguments, they dumb down the quest to find solutions to complex problems. And to some extent, I would argue if anybody in Parliament should not be dumbing things down. Yes, you have to figure out a way to speak to certain segments of the population that's not going to have an Oxford dictionary of a vocabulary available to them. But you shouldn't talk down to them, and oversimplifying things at times the wrong way, whether intentional or not, is talking down to them. And the independent bench should be a source of more critical thinking, of more detailed analysis, and of a higher academic integrity. Because you don't have a political agenda, you're independent. But the catch is, you're appointed by a president who is selected by who? And therein lies the problem, which is why one of the things about constitutional reforms, the question of how we as a country choose a president, assuming we keep to some extent that structure, it's a very difficult question to find. There's no easy solution, I believe. Because if you just leave it up to the voters, that's not necessarily going to give us the kind of results that we want all the time. All right. Don't want to go too far over time. I know that some of the issues that we have are issues that not a lot of people would like to confront for whatever reason. Also, I know that right now we're still in a kind of a weird phase post-election where I remember yesterday somebody saying, the country feeling nice, everybody positive. I don't know if I'll agree with that. There were 200,000 voters for the PNM. I think they're positive. I don't know necessarily why they're so positive, but I don't know if they're positive for the same reasons why some of the rest of the country is positive. And that implication is one of divisiveness, of division. That the competition to the point where it's unhealthy is still there. So I don't know if we're ready to have our kumbaya moment where we're going to come together and deal with our greater problems quite just yet. And there may be some things that we need to get done sooner rather than later that might require most of Parliament to agree. The government's majority might not be enough for certain things, particularly things like constitutional reform. I don't think it might not be enough. But are we going to get it? I don't know. We have to wait and see how the Senate's going to turn out. To some extent, that's maybe the next clue. We're still waiting on a commissioner. That should have been maybe the first thing, but I guess, I don't know if they started over the exercise from scratch. So before the commissioner, I thought that would have been the first thing, but maybe that's not. Before the commissioner, we're going to see who will be the senators chosen, and that will give us a hint with regards to the mindset of both the UNC, the PNM, as well as the president and the independent bench, and what the agenda for Parliament would be based on who is selected and what we think of their historical stances, what we think their personal agendas might be going forward, or their approach might be going forward. It's all speculative right now. The problem is, people might say, yes, it's speculative, Sean, we need to wait and see. And I understand that, but to some extent it's similar to the commissioner. There's a point where you have to stop waiting because the consequences of getting it wrong are that severe at this level. This is not Granny's Bakery, where if you get it wrong, Granny Bakery closed down, and her 2 or 3 employees might have to find a job. This is the government of Trinidad and Tobago, where if you get it wrong, communities could get flooded out, the murder rate could go up, houses could burn down, babies could die in hospital, and so on, and so on, and so on. I think Oakland has like 800,000 population, I could be wrong, somewhere close to 1 million, less than us, but their murder rate, their alarming murder rate was 100 murders for a year. We don't have 6 times their population to justify 600 murders a year. Let's not forget that. We could feel all happy about the election results, but that still needs to translate to actual results. So, and of course the opposition has its part to play. Are they doing it? That's also debatable. Dawn of a new day. Same complaints coming from yours truly. Don't know what to make of it. Not same complaints. That's not true. That's not true. But we could get there. We could get there. I hope we don't. Until then, have a good day. Stay safe. Remember your allegiance to the Republic and to each other. But never forget, it's nice to be nice, including to people who might be different from you. Maybe you should take the opportunity to reach out and talk to them. But until then, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Her voice has mesmerized us for years.
And now, in a rare treat for music fans,
Shakuntala and Friends in concert, featuring Shakuntala Jangbahadur. Singing sensation Deval Chaitlal, brilliant musician Dr. Shivanan Maharaj, master flautist and saxophonist Narendra Maharaj, with music from Shiv Sangeet Orchestra, Shakuntala and Friends in concert.
Shakuntala.